Today's guest is the Director of Career, Technical, and Agricultural Education in the Harris County School Districts of the state of Georgia. He's a longtime friend, and he is actually on the forefront of ensuring that jobs get filled in our economies. This is one of my favorite conversations I've had on this episode. Something I'm passionate about is the need for more blue-collar workers in our economy. And not just blue-collar workers, but more laborers in general. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. As always, we'll be right back here next week with another interview for you to enjoy. So, without further ado, please enjoy this episode and welcome to the show, my friend, Mr. Tyler Dunn. Well, good. Well, so tell me this. Because I remember last time I saw Braylon was a few years ago at at that conference when we would go with Mom and Daddy. But does he still know all the presidents? Can he recite all the presidents?
Every one of them, man. And could tell you, like you could just pick a random year and he could tell you who the president was. He could tell you from when they served to when they stopped, just any kind of random fact about that. And so, gosh, he has known the order of presidents since he was about 7 or 8 years old. And we didn't do anything with that. He can read something and commit it to memory. And it's just, amazing how he can absorb that information. Know? And knows about like world history. Like his thing is world history. Really loves European history. Can tell you all about World War I, World War II, what started them. Can look at a map or a globe and tell you roughly when it was created based on the countries, in Africa or Eastern Europe, and where USSR broke up to the different countries. And, people would ask him questions and he'd know the answer, and they'd look at me for affirmation. I'm like, I don't know this stuff. Google it.
Yeah.
I can't verify that.
Where does that come from, do you think?
The ability to absorb it or the interest.
Yeah. The ability to just spit it out.
He's a brilliant kid. He really is. He can just memorize anything. He took this is his first year, so he finished his junior year. He took 3 AP classes in high school, and AP is advanced placement. And if at the end of it you take a test, and the score range is 1 to 5. 5 is the highest you can score, and if you score a 3 or better, most colleges will give you credit for it. Some of them make you score 5 to earn credit, so forth. Well, he took one in human geography, which is kind of the movement of cultures around the world. He took one in American government, and he took one in psychology, and he made 2 5s and a 4. It just, blows my mind. Like, I knew he'd do well, and he was confident he scored 5s. He knew it. He practiced for him. He just knew him. So he's a really, really bright kid.
What does he plan to do with all that?
His future ambitions are, he really likes criminal investigations.
Okay.
So he likes the crime scene type stuff and solving, mysteries or solving crimes, that kind of stuff. And that's one of the things we teach at our school. He got a dose of that, and they, as his kind of end of the year investigation, he was given a pig that had been murdered, and he had to determine how it was murdered. So they dissect it. They look at all the wounds and injuries, and they look at blood splatter and that kind of stuff. So he likes that, which really doesn't tie into the political side of things.
No, not at all.
But he likes that. I don't know. I wish he would do. He's the kind of guy who I wish would be in. He'd be the good guy in politics. Like a good moral compass, understand the lay of the land. I think he could be really impactful there. But I would worry about him in a political world. Just all the vices that go with it. So I'd be concerned about that.
Right. Well, hey, tell him he's got my vote if he decides
just be
to
the president.
There you go. I'll vote
I
for
could
him.
see him serving in politics, man. I could see it.
Well, that's the thing. Like we need people that aren't corrupt, and understand the laws and the Constitution, and will fight for that.
Yeah, yeah, he's got it, man. And that it's one of the issues I think I see youth faced with is how to face the fight. There are a lot of battles right there, and there's some one-liners like I preach to my kids, and they get tired of hearing them. And here's one I'm gonna give to you, and it's not mine. I stole it from somebody else. And not everybody likes this adage right here, but I tell them, be a good man, don't be a nice man. Be a good guy, not a nice guy. So when you're faced with the opportunity to fit in, but it challenges your moral values, don't be nice in that situation, and go along with it. Be a good man and stand up for what you believe is true and good and right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I preach to he and Bailey, be a good person, not a nice person. You can be a nice person while being a good person. But when faced with those things where I'm going to upset a friend because I'm not going along with the crowd, I need to be a good person.
So you're saying too with that there's too many nice people that are bad people?
I won't say bad, just make poor choices. I deal with kids a lot in my profession, and man, even good kids make bad decisions, and I think we've got to show them the right way, show them how to overcome, an obstacle like that. And when they do make mistakes, what's your next move? Are you going to keep wallowing in the mistake, or are you going to acknowledge that it was a mistake, figure out a plan to improve and do better going forward? So yeah, there are a lot of real nice people who, you believe this, and it may go against my moral values. Okay, good. I'll celebrate that with you. You see professional athletes facing those things where, their moral values are being challenged. Hey, we're going to celebrate this. We're going to pay homage to this. And they're faced with a dilemma right there. Am I just going to go along with the culture, or am I going to stand up for what I believe is true and good and right?
Well, Mr. Tyler, introduce yourself for all the listeners.
Sure. I'm Tyler Dunn. I'm originally from Manchester, Georgia. Was born in Manchester, born and raised there. Explored college a few times. Some of that was successful and some of it wasn't. Got my course straightened out. Ended up teaching science to start with at Llewellyn Middle School with your dad. Did that for science for a couple of years and health and PE for a couple of years, and then got into administration back in Manchester. I went home. I went there, spent 5 years there. Really got involved in career tech at that school, and it's older people look at it as vocational training. Back in the day, it was shop class and it was an ag class or automotive. Now it's much more diverse. But I left Manchester, went to Troop High in LaGrange, was there for 8 years, ended up in Harris County, and I've been there now for about 6 years. I started there in 2020 and have really enjoyed being able to build relationships with industry partners, with our economic development group in our area, with our student population. I'm trying to get kids in a workforce. So I'm just looking for opportunities to do that. We've got a lot of connections, the Dunns and the Steeles. Ben and I, your dad, became good friends in college. It's the third college I went to. We were in some of the same classes together, and pretty good friends there. And then I ended up back at West Georgia when he went for the first time, and we were just always around each other. I mean, just real close. And then, of course, your mom and my wife were roommates in college. And then after your dad and your mom met, they introduced Paige and I. And occasionally Ben and I would take the 2-hour and 45-minute trip to Milledgeville to see them. And I can remember the first time I ever going there. We came and spent the night with Mr. Bob, your granddad. spent the night with him, got up the next morning, did some work on a deck. And then I'm just like, hey, man, I'm trying to go on a date right here. And Ben, you got me out here building the deck. But he just thinks he had to get done before we could ride to Milledgeville and see the girls. So working with, going to school with Ben, being introduced to my wife. Then we worked together. We all worked together at Luella. Your mom, Ben, and I were in the same building. Paige was in the elementary school right next door to us. So it was good times. I actually lived with your parents for about a month when I first got my job at Luella.
Wow.
They were living in an apartment in Jackson at the time. They were good to me.
How crazy is that? So you actually married my mom's roommate then?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they were friends in high school. You know, I just saw her parents just then and reintroduced myself to them and said, I'm, Paige Seeger's husband. Oh, yeah. So Sarah's parents were friends with Paige's parents. They all went to church together, grew up in church together.
Oh, my word. I didn't realize the connection. I thought they were just college roommates. I didn't realize it went that deep.
Yeah, they were friends in high school. Mm-hmm.
That made stuff easier on you and Daddy when you want to go visit.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Y'all could hang out.
And we knew so many people. Like I said, your dad introduced me to my wife, and then a month or so later, there was a get together. I was at a campus outreach project in Chattanooga, Tennessee, between Christmas and New Year's. It's called Christmas Project, and it's a Christian campus outreach ministry. I was coming home from that, and that was in Chattanooga. And he invited me to like a New Year's party that Sarah and Paige were all going to be at. So that was really the first time Paige and I spent much time around each other. And then a couple weeks later, we went on our first date. So yeah, take your parents out of the mix, and I got a whole different story to tell. So wow. Very, very tied in. I can remember, you in the womb. I mean, I remember when they got pregnant with you and when you were born.
Incredible. Now you're sitting here talking to me, having a conversation.
It's pretty funny.
Full circle moment.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's great to see, what all you guys are doing too. You got a good thing going, a good career, good opportunities, and I watched how Ben and Sarah reared their children and that contributed to how I tried to rear my children. Not that we do everything the same way, but I can learn it. I can learn from everybody.
That's right.
Either I really like how you're doing that, and so I'm gonna mimic it, or I don't like how you're doing that, so I'm gonna make sure I don't do that.
It's a good mentality to have. Yeah. That's up for me. That like I just, especially in my line of work, I want to get to the point where I'm just like, I want to be around successful people. I want to surround myself with knowledgeable people that know how to do stuff I don't know how to do, and that I want to learn from, if that makes sense. So if I want to learn how to plumb, I want to talk to the plumber on the phone. I want to get to know him. I want to work with him, whatever it may be, whether it's flooring, plumbing, HVAC, just like learn from all these people while I'm young and absorb it so I can kind of sharpen the arrows in my quiver.
Can I ask you two questions there? So you said be around successful people. How would you define a successful person?
A lot of people would say money.
Yeah.
But I guess I would say a happy, God-fearing family.
Okay.
And then also smart in business. Mm-hmm. Successful in business. And I mean, I guess that could be monetarily, but more of like just they've come from nothing and they figured out systems that, streamline their business, or they've been able to scale their business, and because that's what I want to do. So I want to learn from those people. Right.
That's good. No, that's good. Second question.
Okay.
When you said I want to learn from the plumber and the HVAC and electric, what's your end goal? Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? What do you want to be doing?
All of it.
So, okay. So not like a GC type thing.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely love to be a GC. But here's my thing. Like, I want to manage stuff, and I want to be able to say, go look at this job and be like, okay, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be changed out, whatever. But I also don't want to do that all the time. I want to be in there and be doing the work myself. Because I love working with my hands.
Right.
That's just a part of it. So kind of a mix of both. And I guess A big role model for me would be my uncle, who I worked with for so many years, and he kind of does that. He doesn't have his GC, but a lot of times he can manage projects.
Mm-hmm.
Then also he's in there. He knows how to do everything and work with his hands. I don't think I could do like paperwork stuff and just manage all day long.
I got it.
And I guess I'd say morally too, like it just kind of, I don't want to be that guy that's always like standing around pointing for other people to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to be able to, if I tell you to do it, I'm able to do it myself.
I got it. Good. Sorry if I hijacked you a little bit right now.
No, that's fine. It's rare when I get asked the questions, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and we'll get to it, I'm sure, but like, that's just part of my job. Like, I want to know where you want to be. What's your end goal?
So what would you say to me with what I just told you?
I'd say it's pretty hot on a roof in August. I can remember having that conversation with your dad in college when we first started being friends, and your dad being a framer, and him looking at the long term, thinking it's hot on a roof in August, and there's no pension in that field. So I would encourage you, and before we finish tonight, I'll talk to you about a Roth IRA, and you probably already got it.
I've already got it.
Super.
I've been doing it for about 2 years now.
Who's managing it? Who do you have it with?
Edward Jones.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, there's three I recommend: Fidelity, Charles Schwab, and Vanguard.
Okay.
And so I don't know about Edward Jones, but I'd look at the fees that are associated with it. You might be able to find something with a lower fee. But I encourage kids all the time to plan for retirement. If you invest in a future and don't think about yourself in the moment, like, you can have a few $1 million when you're 60 years old and ready to retire.
Yeah, because I have no 401k.
No, that's right. That's right.
So,
but you're doing the right things. You got the right framework in place. I tell kids to live on the 70-30 model. Live on 70% of what you make, and the other 30%, 10% invest in retirement, 10% save, and 10% give away. Knowing that I work in a public school, I don't go up to them and say, you got to tithe 10%, and you got to do it on your net, on your gross, not your net. I don't have those conversations, but I do give them examples of what I do with my money. And I'm going to give, I give it to my church. You may give it to a charity. You may give it to something else. But I always encourage people to have, 30% that you're not going to touch. Ultimately 20% investing, savings and retirement. But that 10%, I think, and people who don't know Jesus will come back and say, yeah, that's good karma. You get back what you put in or put out. And I say, I got a different philosophy right there, but you're not going, you're never going to go wrong giving away something you don't get anything back for, but you're being benevolent. You're trying to help people. So I would tell you that. Then I would say, all right, if you're going to work until you're 50, 60, what can you maintain being on your knees doing flooring all day, being on a roof in August? And if you're going to scale that business, well, ultimately you got to train people who probably like Isaiah did with you. All right, I'm going to teach you skills that you can go manage this job by yourself, and I'll come check on you, and so that you can do that on a regular basis too.
But so with that, I guess my dilemma is this: like, I want to hire somebody to come help me, and that wants to learn how to do this sort of thing, and that's going to like stay with me and work with me, and I don't expect them to do this for the rest of their life, but actually is going to put some effort into learning something when they're there at work and not just looking at the clock when the day is going to end.
Right.
And the dilemma there is everyone I come in contact with, they want at least $20 an hour. And the biggest problem for me in that is the fact that they can go work at McDonald's and make that rather than come out here in the heat all day on a roof in August, And I can't blame them for that. I can't blame them for wanting to make
the easier
money.
Mm-hmm. But they're and it's hard, and they've got to realize, like, I'm not going to knock you for working at McDonald's,
No.
But the ceiling's pretty low. You know, you're only going to climb so far up that hierarchy. You know, whereas in your profession, you know, those are skills that you can. You know, the ceiling that doesn't exist. The sky's the limit. You know, if you want to build a 1,500 square foot spec house, or if you want to go into major industrial construction and build a 40-acre manufacturing plant, you know, there's just a lot more opportunities to grow over here. Yeah. But if that person wants to go work at McDonald's and they want to be the best and they want to learn the business and they want to buy a franchise, you know, they can be extremely successful. I think everybody can be successful. You know, if you've got the work ethic, you're willing to learn, you don't mind, you know, suffering through the tough times. There's a success waiting on you. You know, the cards can fall in a very beneficial way for you. So it's just a matter of what they want to do. But you're talking about people for the most part. And this is an issue we have with workforce, that people don't want to work. You know, they want to do, your kind of work's hard work, and $20 is probably not a crazy number, but you probably had to work and build a lot of skills before you were really making $20 an hour.
Sure did.
And they just want to walk in and get it because they're entitled, you know. I think kids today want to live the lifestyle their parents have provided for them in their first job. You know, you live in a beautiful home, you've got a nice, you know, house, land, you know, but your parents worked really, really hard to invest, to build this, to save, and they didn't start out like this, you know. So I want kids to realize they got to start on the lower level of the ladder before they can live this lifestyle.
What's the biggest cause for the lack of motivation to work in my generation specifically?
I would probably say experience. You know, I think there are fewer of your generation who's working or grinding at a job. You know, there's not as many kids working at McDonald's because older people are working there. I mean, I can't. The vast majority of teachers I know work more than one job. Administrators work more than one job. Principals work more than one job. You know, so they are taking some of the jobs that younger kids used to do. Two, I don't think parents expect kids to go out and do. You know, there's a battle that I've got to fight when I tell you or my son or daughter, bless you, hey, you know, you've got this task to do around the house. And what do most kids say, or a lot of kids say? No, or I'll do it later, or pitch such a fit about it, put up such a wall against it, that so many parents will just say, I'll just do it instead of fighting the fight. You know, and I think the fight's important because, you know, our kids have to, your generation have to understand, I got to work for this. You know, it's not going to just come freely. So I think that's a big part of it. And I think there are young men and women who had the idea of, you know, when I was young, it was, I'll be a professional athlete. And now people have the mentality of, well, I'm just going to make it as an influencer. How, and you're nodding right there. And, you know, that's probably something you're working towards, but how many videos or podcasts have you produced in your time doing this kind of work?
And between this one and the last one, probably close to 70, 80 episodes.
And that's not just the time sitting there. There's editing time. There's pre-prep work. There's a lot that goes into it. And I don't know how much you make with this kind of stuff. But
Zero.
You're not getting rich on it. I'm pretty sure of that.
Not at all. Nothing.
And you got a good little setup right here. You're grinding, and it's day in and day out. And students think that I can just record myself with an iPhone and throw it up on YouTube and I'm going to get 100,000 views or greater. Again, it goes back to the idea of it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen by chance. Somebody worked really, really hard to get to that point. And I failed, or I was not successful. I didn't have those 100,000 view clips, for 3 years. And then all of a sudden I had one that went crazy. So I think they have a warped mentality of the work that goes into being successful as an influencer, per se.
Well, I'll kind of add to that because I guess culture had kind of put this idea in my head that, if I say the right things or, I have the right thumbnail or whatever, that this podcast will go viral or somehow it'll just blow up.
Mm-hmm.
But then, it's kind of shifted for me here recently, and I've seen so many like successful YouTubers, podcasters, influencers, whatever it may be, like talk about how hard they worked to get here, how long it took them to actually become popular.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen overnight. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. Do I enjoy doing what I'm doing right now? Yes. Am I making any money? No. But that's why I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket.
Right.
Like this is just something we're recording this in the evening time because we both work. Like this is not a full-time gig. I stay up Monday night till like 12 a.m. editing these things when they come out at 6 a.m. on Tuesday. So it's just in my free time. But I still believe that, like, I think about people, and this is ordinary people, right? The ordinary person who finds value in this episode, who finds value in the stories we highlight.
Mm-hmm.
And that reminds me of why I'm doing this. It's not to go viral or, even if the people around this area, that's all who enjoys it. Even if it's 25 people and they find some sort of value, then it's worth it to me. So that's been something that I've had to kind of really ingrain in my mind. There's one podcast, maybe you've heard of it, Diary of a CEO,
mm-hmm.
With Stephen Bartlett.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on, I think it's called, it's some sort of spinoff of like Shark Tank over there in the UK.
Uh-huh.
And he's on that show. I mean, he's the CEO of some big companies. He has his own content company, whatever. Really, really bright dude, good conversator. He recorded, I want to say it was close to 1,000 episodes, 500 episodes before it kind of shot up. Now he has 13 million subscribers. He's interviewing the biggest names in the world, but it was consistency. And it was never, to him, it was never about blowing up. It was just highlighting these CEOs, their diaries, their lives, and their work ethic.
Says a lot for perseverance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just I'm going to take the next step, and the next step.
And it just makes me think, I'm like, I'm already 27 episodes in, and it's hard enough scheduling people, especially during the summertime. Like, am I going to run out of people to talk to? Am I going to run out of stuff to say? And I'm like, how long until, this gains any traction? Is it episode 50? Is it episode 500? How long can I keep this up for? But then I'm like, just take it one at a time.
That's it.
Just one at a time, and just enjoy every step of the process. I think if this thing got too big, it would be hard for me because I enjoy sitting here recording and messing with the editing of it and learning how to EQ stuff and get all the sound right. And if it gets too big, then somebody else does that.
Right.
And then do I really enjoy it anymore?
And I think that conundrum, that struggle of, I love doing all of this. I mean, realistically, it can lead to potential other careers. And I'll give you an example. There's a musician that I really liked in it's post-college. His name is Tyler Ward. Lives in Nashville. Tyler did great covers and a lot of acoustic covers all over YouTube. Like, he's almost non-existent now because he's gone from the artistry of it, singing and performing, to the production side of it, and is doing extremely well with that. So he took what he thought he was going to be passionate about, or what he was passionate about, and discovered a new passion. And that is how he's making a living now, is doing the the production of the music, not singing, not performing. And he does some really cool stuff, but it's all on the back end that nobody sees. So he's discovered new passions, and if it's the editing stuff that you're digging, audio, video, whatever it is, I mean, there's a future there,
YouTube University, baby.
That's it, baby.
Look, I'll tell you this. The first podcast we ever did was the For Sheltered Children podcast with my 3 other siblings, and it started from this this guy that had a podcast in our church, and I was like, you know what, that would be interesting. Like, what if we did one? I wonder what it takes, because I've always loved podcasts. I mean, you go on my Spotify, and half of my listening hours or minutes or whatever in a year, more than half, is just podcasts. I love them. I love learning. And so long story short, I start researching how to start a podcast. Mm-hmm. And I probably had 100 hours invested in, okay, what's the cheapest equipment I can get, from microphones to XLR cables to mixers to computers, all of that stuff. Like 100+ hours on YouTube just learning how to do it. And I figured it out. Mm-hmm. And like everything's self-taught. I don't know any other podcaster that really does it. And so it's just been me trying to figure stuff out. But from the time now doing it, and I'm not saying I'm good by any means, but from when I started, just from the technical side,
right?
I mean, it's been a huge jump.
Right.
So...
Right. Well, you don't have a couple of cell phones sitting here filming. I mean, you got good equipment right there.
Yeah, and that was even a process of working up. Like,
sure,
this stuff's expensive, and
like I said, you're not getting paid for it.
No, so it's just like, okay, save up.
So if you want to advertise, make sure you contact Levi Still.
That's right. Well, we need some sponsors on.
That's it.
But no, it's that's really cool that you see this so often. I'll give you a recent example, and I'm not going to know the guy's name or anything, but there was this guy that I believe during COVID or the lockdown, he learned how to what's that 3D animation software, Blender or something like this. Okay. Anyways, he created this like spin-off series, this called The Backrooms. Okay. And he was a YouTuber that did this, and he just produced a Hollywood level film for like $2 million that's like selling out theaters right now, all because of some skills he learned off of YouTube.
A curious mind can create some great things. If you've just got that curiosity and you're willing to solve a problem, find a solution, figure things out, you can create some amazing things. And kudos to someone who has that creativity. That's something that I feel like personally I lack some creativity. Like I appreciate things, but can I create things? No art, no music, nothing like that. I can cut my grass and tend to the yard, that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to be, well manicured. I just don't feel like I'm a very creative person. I look for places to help. So to see somebody who is creative, is looking for a avenue to demonstrate their creativity and put in all that work, take some gambles. I'm sure, if you're investing $2 million in something, you don't know what you're going to get. Your equipment right here, you've invested a lot in it, and you're not gambling on the future because you're not counting on it, but you're not expected a return on this investment.
Right.
So kudos to the creative people who are willing to, hey, I've got this idea and this passion, let's produce it. And then we get to enjoy it. We get to absorb it.
I think everybody is creative in a sense.
Think so?
Yeah, I really do. And we all have different ways of expressing that. Everybody has a different creative outlet.
Right.
Like you mentioned cutting the grass. Something as simple as that, but if you're crazy into that,
yeah,
and you're really detailed about how straight the lines are, and the fertilizing of it, if you pick up the clip ends, and then how many hours of sunlight, water, whatever it may be, No,
I agree. People are that way. I'm not. That's not me. And you say that everybody's got some creativity in them. I'll concede to that. perhaps mine might not be channeled the best way. I'm a pretty witty guy, and I'm pretty quick on things, and sometimes it's good and helpful and beneficial to those who hear it. And other times it's a quick little jab. So I mean, maybe I'm creative in my comebacks on things.
Yeah. See, exactly. You're creative in the mind.
Maybe so. Yeah.
What was that dynamic like between you and my dad? Y'all are both pretty witty.
Yeah. It made things really, really entertaining and interesting. And, we've got some great stories, some funny stories together.
Probably not all ones you can tell here.
Oh, no, they're not. But I mean, we played really well off of each other. I could do things to really tick him off, and like I knew what those things were, and then he could do things to really tick me off, and he knew what those were, and there were times that we'd have to spend a little time apart from each other to let the dust settle a little bit. Never any hatred or anything like that, but there were some frustrations I'm sure shared both ways there. But it was great, and so I mean, your dad's really great at this. So often, our bantering came back to Jesus and the scriptures. And one thing I vividly remember was our joking perhaps got a little coarse, and maybe like potentially offensive to him or vice versa. And I can't remember the scripture, but he pointed out a scripture to me to say, coarse joking is not approved of. You can have fun, you can cut up and that kind of stuff, but when it becomes coarse and abrasive, we've crossed the line right there. So that accountability was great. I would say I certainly would have to be reminded of that. That's not I hear that lesson one time and I'm good. I need that over and over, and I still do, 20 years later, 25 years later. But it's memories like that, and then the conversations we'd have. I can remember sitting on the steps of his apartment, him playing the guitar. I don't know, great conversation. There's a lot to be said to who you surround yourself with. And I was very fortunate to be around Ben Steele for a long time. I say a long time. I mean, yeah, 3 years in college, I'd say, and then we worked together for 5 years, and of course, we've still been real close. We've been apart for now, over 20 years, and still very close, very close. Wow. Your dad is a really good friend, and specifically, like, he initiates a lot of communication. I'm more passive in terms of a friendship, perhaps, but Ben's gonna call me on the way to work. I'm the only person that's gonna call me with just a chat in the morning is gonna be your dad. I might get a call from the school about an issue or a business partner with a problem that needs solving or something, but Ben's just gonna call to talk. And it's really important to have that kind of friendship, those kind of people around you.
He's good about that. He's good about reaching out to people, being the first
one. I don't know how he does it, man. How's he keep up with that? And I mean, I know I'm not the only one. Does he have a rotation? Does he just say, all right, it's been 3 weeks since I called Tyler, let me call him? I don't know how he does it, but he does a really good job with that.
He does. Yeah. Something I can learn from for sure.
We all can. Yeah, I feel the same way. So often I think, and maybe this is the Holy Spirit, I'll think of someone in a moment and think, oh man, I need to reach out to him. And I don't do anything about it. And 2 weeks later, I get a call from them. And I'm like, God put it on my heart to call you. He probably put it on your heart to call me. And you listened, and I didn't. And so I try to be more purposeful with that.
Yeah, more intentional about doing it when when the Holy Spirit convicts you.
Yes.
Well, I mean, Daddy's talked about that with us in the sense of like prayer. Like if you tell somebody you're gonna pray for them, like pray for them right then, because you're gonna forget.
Don't wait. I love it.
And it's right. Because I do forget if I don't.
Absolutely.
So tell me about growing up in Manchester, Georgia.
So depending on your audience, I mean, it's just right across the Flint River, more or less. I mean, we're a little southwest of here in Zebulon or Meansville. It was really good. I've got some good stories. I had a real good friend group. I grew up. I've got an older brother who was about 3 years older than me. So a lot of his friends were my friends. We shared some friends. But on top of that, my mom taught at Manchester High School, and she taught in Meriwether County for around about 40 years. She worked in education there as a teacher and as a counselor. And so Manchester and Meriwether County is a real small community. And so she knows everybody. Her dad ran the grocery store in Manchester, so he knew everybody. So the community was just really tight knit. We just knew everybody, and everybody knew us. My mom had great relationships with kids. They trusted her. They would confide in her. She was by the time I got in high school, she taught half a day and was a counselor half a day. So people brought their woes and concerns to her, and with that being said, she knew everything that went on. Everything. There was no getting away with anything. When I told you I can learn something from everybody, good or bad, my brother was a little more mischievous than I was. He pushed the limits, but I saw him get caught, and my mom, he never got away with anything. My mom knew it all. So it was real easy when I was faced with choices of temptations. My mom's going to find out. So if I'm not willing for her to know about it, I'm not willing to do it, because she was going to find out. Even so much as she came to me one day, my locker just happened to be right by her classroom. Imagine that. And she said, "Tyler, are you going to so-and-so's party down at the Flint River?" That was a common place to go kind of hang out and party, was at the Flint River. And I said, "Well, Mom, I hadn't even heard about this party yet. But since you told me about it, can I go when I do find out about it?" She said, "No, because so-and-so and so-and-so are going to be there, and they're going to fight." I'm like, "So you should have just told me from the jump what all was going to play out. Don't even give me the option. Just tell me that."
That's right.
And so, that she just knew everything that was going on. So that was a unique dynamic, and I embraced it. I was fine with it. I was fine. My mom being there, I had a really good relationship with her. She taught me, in several classes. Probably the most trouble I got in high school, I had a football coach as a teacher, and he taught me algebra, and I would leave his class, and my next class was my mom's class, like diagonal from his. And very often he would beat me to her room to tell on me about my behavior in class. And it was deserved. I mean, it was merited. I deserved it. I was a jerk. And so the first 5-10 minutes of class would be me being chastised in front of my peers about my behavior in class. And so I made a choice at that point. I said, I can either be on point there, do what I'm supposed to do there, and not have to suffer this embarrassment, or I can just keep getting embarrassed every day. And I learned from that. I learned to shut my mouth a little bit more in that class. So that was really unique. Your dad will tell stories about me playing football, and back then Manchester was pretty good in football. I think they still are. I had really good experience with that. And then obviously that played into when your dad and I worked together and coached football together. We talked about those times and my experience in football and his experience in football. And I learned a lot in the relationships in sports. I wouldn't say I was a really good athlete, but I learned a lot of perseverance. I learned how to work hard in the heat. I learned to pay the price on the front end, so you get to reap some benefits and rewards on the back end. You put a whole lot of work in a sport prepping for something for a Friday night football game. And, people want the Friday night experience, but they don't want the Saturday through Thursday work that goes along with it. So I learned that.
What position did you play?
So we were really a pretty small school. And so I played offense and defense. I was a center on offense, and on defense, I played defensive line. They had me at defensive tackle and nose guard. So I was a lineman. I was a lot bigger back then, a lot bigger, a lot stronger. We had free lunch at school, so I took advantage of that as much as I could, and everybody that had leftovers just brought them to me. And we had a pretty good weight program, and so I was in the weight room a lot. So it's funny to tell stories about, like I said, I'm probably 50 pounds lighter than I was in high school, and to tell people I was an offensive lineman and played against pretty good competition a few years back. But it was typical kind of small town mentality. Think of Paige, my wife, when she thinks about it and tells stories, she relates it to the movie The Varsity Blues, where football is king of the community, and the town was shut down, and it would, on Friday nights, everybody was at the games, and that was a really neat experience. But again, my mom being a teacher there for so long, I grew up wanting to do that. I wanted to be a football player. And so I can remember high school players being my heroes. I can remember because I was one of the favorite teachers' kids. Like, I got to hang out with the players a little bit. So, that was just a dream come true. I'll give you a little known fact. You familiar with Michael Waddell, the bone collector?
Yeah.
All right. So Michael's from Manchester, and Mom taught him, and he graduated. Michael graduated in about 91-ish, 90 or 91, I think it was. And I can remember him as a high school football player. I can tell you what number he wore in high school and everything. I can tell you the cheerleader he dated in high school. I was just enamored by those athletes. Those were my NFL players. Those are the people I looked up to, and they were giants. To me, they were giants. And so growing up there, like I said, real tight knit, really tied into the community. Wasn't really tied into church. I've got for me, it's a pretty neat story. The First Baptist Church in town, we don't have that many churches, but I grew up kind of Methodist, and then just stopped going. And in high school, when I was playing football, a chaplain, the First Baptist preacher, was one of our chaplains. We probably had two or three, was there. And he, in my opinion, he really showed me what it was like to love like Jesus. Like, there was no, when he and I would converse on the sidelines or at practice or at dinner, there were no pretenses. Like, his interest in me felt genuine. And it wasn't hey, Tyler, let me tell you a Bible story. Or, hey, Tyler, let's read this verse. He just genuinely built a relationship with me. And by his actions, I saw the way to live as Christ. And so as a 16-year-old, nobody else in my house is going to church. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to that guy's church. Here's the irony, never got invited to the youth group, never went to the youth group or anything. They were very active, but I always went to church with him. And I still keep in touch with him. He's, like I said, 30 years ago. I've texted with him. I'm in a Bible study on Thursday mornings in Harris County. He lives on one end of Harris County, and I live on the other. I've invited him to our Bible study. So again, I think he had a genuine interest in my spirit, what I became. And so I don't know. I value being from a small town because of, I think it was easier to build relationships like that. My wife and your mom grew up in a huge town, and they had great relationships in their church. That just wasn't afforded to me. Let me rephrase it. I didn't take advantage of those opportunities if they were there. And their story is pretty unique. I hear stories about, they went to a real big high school, and like the head football coach, knew them all by names. And that's kind of surprising to me. So I've always thought living in a small town was it's the way to go, and it's what's good and best. And there's a whole lot of benefits to. I always thought, man, if I fall flat on my face, I know some people I can go to there that'll put me to work. I know somebody there who would feed me for a couple meals. They're just long-term relationships, and really those paid off huge when I went back to work at Manchester after I had graduated college and been in Henry County with your dad for 5 years, and went back to work in Manchester. To know the families, a lot of the people I dealt with were siblings of people I grew up with, or family. I had some that were children of them, but just knowing those families was really beneficial. So that small town community was very important to me.
What do you think makes a small community so special?
Knowing everybody. Again, not that I really didn't try to get away with anything in high school. I was a pretty straight-laced kid. but I just knew everybody everywhere I went. And some people would look at that as a disadvantage. You know, it played to my advantage. It gave me opportunities. You know, I can remember the first real job I ever had. A guy put me to work at a grocery store. My brother was already working there, and you know, had no experience. I was 14 years old, and he was willing to take a chance on me and put me to work. And I bet I worked at that guy's grocery store 3 different occasions. I worked with him for about 6 months, and then after summer school got going and I got a little more social and football, and so I stopped working for him then. About a year later on, went back to work for him, found a different job, left. And then after I struggled with college the first time, well, only one time I struggled with it, and pretty much had to go home and had to take a break from school, I went back to him, and he just always, you know, had a job for me, always willing to take a chance on me. So that meant a lot. Having my family pretty close by was pretty important. We're real close with our extended family. Like I said, my mom was born and raised there. My dad was born and raised there. So just a lot of connections right there. And those things, I think, have played well. They did really well for me. Now, I can flip it around and say, you know, the community I live in now is a lot bigger. School I work with now is a lot bigger than Manchester. And there's a lot of opportunities that we have in Harris County that Meriwether County doesn't have. And it's largely tied to population. You know, there's a bigger tax base, there's more students in one building, so we can funnel money to one place and have more opportunities for kids.
Do you think a lot of towns have lost that sense of community because of this right here, a device,
Sure.
staying behind a device all the time?
Sure. Yeah. That, and, you know, so many people believe that if we don't see eye to eye on everything, that we can't be close. We can't be friends. And, you know, for whatever reason, our country is dividing itself more and more. And I say country, that's the big picture. Our communities are dividing themselves, our schools, you know. And again, it goes back to being good versus, you know, being nice. We've got some responsibilities to maintain some of those connections. Put down that device, pick, you know, or if you're going to use it to talk to friends. You know, like I said, your dad calling me, sending, you know, if you're like I am, I'll fire off a text real quick, and they're genuine. Like I'm gonna, hey, I was thinking about you, let know, praying for you, or, you know, anything like that. So it can be used as a beneficial tool. I think, you know, I really, and I don't know if you're old enough to remember the impact or if it had an impact. COVID really had a drastic impact in how we connected with people when we went from we're shoulder to shoulder every day to, you know, we're on and we're going to communicate through a screen. And it's real easy to have Zoom pulled up here and, you know, whatever web page I want to read over here.
Yeah.
We're much more relying on those things. And it's a tool, and you know, tools can be really helpful and beneficial when used appropriately, and if used inappropriately, it can be very harmful. So yeah, that plays something into it. Comfort, people want to be comfortable. You know, people, you know, don't want to get out of their comfort zone and have conversations. So my family will disagree with this statement. I believe I'm an introverted person. Like, this is not super comfortable to me, but I'm willing to step out of my comfort zone, one, to experience it. You know, I want to be able to tell somebody, I was on a podcast. Here's the video right here. You can see this. And so I've done a lot. I am very willing to get out of that comfort zone. But my wife and kids will tell you that I'm not introverted, because we go somewhere and I will work a room, man. But I do it almost to make myself get out of that comfort zone. Because in my mind, man, I could sit at the house, you know, or at my parents' house. I can piddle around the house. I can communicate via email or text or maybe a phone call. But I there's a lot of value in human connection. And so I try to make some of those things. And to be honest with you, Levi, I do better with that with people I don't know. And that's probably not a real good thing, but there's some security for me in that, because even if they judge me, they're not going to see me again. So I'm more willing to take chances like that.
I'm kind of where you are with things is I'm better with people I don't know than people I do know.
Yeah.
And, man, it bothers me so much that people, I know I keep saying this, people in my generation, but I see so many issues in it, and I love my generation, and I still believe there's hope for them. But, like, we just don't talk to people, man, and we're so, like, we're scared, and social anxiety is a real thing, because I get it too, and when I get it the most is people my own age, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to people my own age, compared to having this conversation with you is much easier than if there was somebody 20 years old I was sitting across from.
Why? What are you afraid of?
I think I don't know. That's a good question.
I'll offer this, because my observations with kids, youth, young people, is judgment. Like, will I live up to the standard that they currently have me at? Or if they don't have a standard, or a perception of where I am on the hierarchy, will I be lower? Will they perceive me lower than I value myself? That's my struggle. Like, there's a quote, and this is probably pretty morbid or melancholy. A guy said one time that he's afraid that other people will see him the way he sees himself. So, like, he has a low value of himself, and he puts on an air. And there's a poem by Paul Dunbar that says, "We wear the mask." It's worth looking. But we in society, particularly around people we don't know, but we do it with our peers as well. We put on a mask. We show people what they want to see, or what we believe they want to see. Right? I mean, would you agree that occurs?
Absolutely.
So, in Paul Dunbar, he talks about, I wear the mask. I wear the mask. The mask is what everybody wants to see, and they don't know, the struggles I'm dealing with. They don't know, the pains I'm going through. They don't know the celebrations I've had, and they don't know because I don't tell them. I put on a mask. So we've got to feel safe, to be able to be genuine with people. We've got to recognize that regardless of what somebody else's perception is of us, that our value is found in the way Christ sees us. And if I'm worried about what Levi Steele thinks of me, and I'm not worried about what Jesus thinks of me, obviously my priorities are out of whack. Now, it may make this more comfortable. It may make a social setting more comfortable or inviting or relaxing or humorous, enjoyable, whatever. But it's a dead end. So I would say that a lot of youth, and not just youth, you say your generation, man, it's mine experiences as well, and then the generations in between us do as well. I mean, and perhaps social media plays into it. I mean, we put pictures on Instagram for the likes. I'm not super absorbed with it, but when I open Instagram, I'm going to, the picture I posted yesterday, I'm going to look to see how many likes it has, who liked it. Oh, so-and-so hadn't even done anything with it yet. They're always on here, and I'm looking for value in somebody else's eyes. And so I think that's why we're scared around our social group, our friend group, or perhaps, people we know, associates, as opposed to, man, if I go to the mountains and I'm hiking and I see a dog, I'm going to go talk to those people or something. I'm more comfortable with that. Because I don't care if they judge me. They're going to form that opinion of me, and then we're going to walk away from each other and never encounter each other again. But I've got some tricks that maybe they'll remember me. And so there's this guy named Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey's a Christian financial advisor. You ever heard of him?
Oh yeah.
All right. So when people call in Dave and say, "How are you doing?" What does he say? Do you know? Because I stole this from him.
No.
He says, "Better than I deserve." And everybody just, because, when I say, "Levi, how are you doing?" You're typically going to tell me I'm good. So if I say I'm better than I deserve, I have broken the mold of what you expected to hear. And typically I get questions like, "Oh man, or responses, that ain't true, man. You deserve a lot." Or, "Not me, man. I deserve a lot more than I get." And if I can ever get somebody to open that statement a little bit more, "Why don't you say that?" And I have bracelets and I've given them away. You'll get one tonight. I say Romans 6:23, man. "For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus." So the wages of sin is death. I'm a sinner. I deserve death. But because Jesus died on the cross for me, I have eternal life in him. So I'm better than I deserve. And I'll hand him a bracelet. And so I say that, and that's easier to do with somebody that I'm not going to see again. The lady cash register at Walmart or at the grocery store. Real easy to give her one. But I hope walking away that she'll remember that conversation. Especially if they wear a bracelet, that better than I deserve. Okay. All right. Romans 6:23. And I've got to get the scripture put on these bracelets, but it's a lot easier to do that with, again, somebody I'm not going to encounter than my friend who I know does not follow Jesus. I'm afraid of the judgment, the potential damaged relationship, because are they going to, if they know I'm going to talk about Jesus, are they still going to come around? So where's my confidence in that?
What's people's response when you share that verse and give them
For the
verse?
most part, it's really good. They say, "I like that." I like that perspective. For the most part, it's received well.
Can you tell when it's genuine or when they're just trying to get rid of you?
Yeah. They'll if they're just trying to pass me off, they'll scoff at me, or they don't want the bracelet. That's fine.
But you planted a seed.
Yeah, maybe somebody else can water. I got again people who scoff at it, and people who I would know really well. At one of my jobs in particular, and the people that I work with now. I mean, once you work with somebody for a few years, and that's the generic response that they get from me. I mean, they just know that's coming. And that's actually how I started wearing bracelets. A lady brought me one. Said, "Here, I found this bracelet. Better than I deserve." And then I happened to give it away one night. The lady was like, "Man, I'll back up. Paige and I had gone to dinner with another couple, and we were walking around Columbus, and we hear music. And we can look down the alley and tell this is a private event. So we go up to the table where they're taking the tickets and stuff for the private event, and it's well over halfway over. And so I'm just talking to the ladies and the other guy that's with me. "Hey, what's going on back here? Oh, hey, we just heard music. We just want to come here. Who was playing?" They're like, "Well, how are y'all doing tonight?" And I'm like, "Better than I deserve." And one lady's like, "That's Dave Ramsey." And the other girl's like, "I love that. I wish I got to remember that." And so I got on a bracelet right here. Here, put it on. You'll always remember it. And they let us into the venue for free. They didn't charge us anything. And that triggered with me that, hey, I can use this to kind of pass this along. I can plant seeds that maybe somebody will wear a day, 2 days, 2 weeks, whatever. And they'll think about that, Like I said, for the most part, people receive it well. I've had nobody just brush me aside. Some people roll their eyes. Like I said, it's irregular, so some people roll their eyes.
Or it can get you into private events.
I mean, it worked out well. Praise God.
Tell me about your job a little bit more. What does a typical day look like for you?
It's really varied. I mean, so prior to my current position, I was really tied in with students. I mean, I was elbow to elbow with them day in and day out. And now I'm still around them all day, but I'm not intertwined with their daily workings. I work a lot with people outside of the school. So I'm been really fortunate enough to be in some key positions. So I've sat on the Harris County Chamber of Commerce board, and I met a lot of business people that way. I sit on a resource network board for CTA teachers. So I've met a lot of teachers, and I kind of see big picture stuff right there. The president of the technical school down in Columbus, I've known her for 20 years. We've worked together for a long, long, long time. We've got a good relationship. My wife taught her grandkids. I mean, small town kind of stuff. So my day might be anything from meeting with the industry people, like the one people most acknowledge or aware of Kia. So I might meet with Kia about building their workforce. So, and we try to start it with internships. You know, I'm trying to get the kids while they're still in high school to be able to go to work, like they go to school for 2 classes in the morning and the rest of the day is at work. So they're getting paid and they're earning high school credits. So that's more on the back end of things. On the front end of things, I consider myself building a workforce. All right. And you might ask yourself, like, how you do that? So it gets really in the weeds, but it's kind of techie and I kind of like it. So I look at what are the local or regional workforce needs. All right. So I take pretty much a dot in Harris County and look at, if I were to drive 60 minutes, roughly 60 minutes, what are the places people go to work around there? All right. And what skills are needed for those jobs? And then how many job openings are available? And how many of those jobs make good money? So I'll give you an example. In Pike County, over the next 6 years, one of the highest growing demands for a job is going to be a cook. Right? I mean, it's kind of weird. I don't know how many restaurants are in Pike County, but they want cooks. And cook's not necessarily a high wage job. So I look at that kind of stuff. And then when I can find what I call high need, high wage jobs, well, those are the skills or jobs I want to be preparing kids for in our school. So I look at what courses can we teach that line up with that. And sometimes they're 1-for-1. Like Levi, you'd love our construction program. I mean, we teach carpentry, we teach electrical. Across the hall, we do welding, we teach heavy equipment operating. And I mean, if we're working some really good stuff. Over the last 2 years, let's go back 3 years. I've had a state champion electrician, a state champion plumber, a second runner-up brick mason, second runner-up carpenter, third runner-up cabinet maker. And so like my first place guys go to the nationals. I've had a second in the nation plumber. And so these kids are learning just like crazy skills that pay the bills. And so I work with industry partners who will put those guys to work. And our biggest partner, I mean, we've got some big ones like Brassfield and Gorey. Brassfield and Gorey, they're based out of Birmingham, but they've got offices all over. They are the largest privately owned construction company in the Southeast. I think last year they did about $10 billion worth of business. Crazy money, right? My brick mason, when she was a sophomore, they were ready to hire her. They hired her junior year, so she went to school part of the day, worked part of the day. And now she's full-time with them. She's graduated now. She's full-time with them. And they have either 3 or 4 other apprentice or interns working for them. I mean, big-time jobs. Freeman and Associates. Freeman's a big privately owned construction company. They build a lot of schools and stuff. I've got a few kids working with them. C.W. Matthews is the largest. They do paving, so like all your road work. I mean, you're gonna see CW doing a lot of that.
I see them all over.
Yeah, you see the yellow circle with the CWM on it. Yep. So CW is based out of Marietta. When I got ready to offer heavy equipment, I called them or their outreach person and said, all right, here's what we're looking to do. Come see our lab. And he's like, all right, I like it. I said, here's, and industry people have money. Those guys have money. So I said, here's my classroom set up. It's not like we want it. We want to, tear a door in this wall, right? Connect these 2 rooms, put a door in right here and a window right here. But, it's kind of lofty. I don't know that we can pay for it. And he said, write a proposal and submit it to our organization, and we'll see if we can help you. And so, to me, it was a big ask. It was a $14,000 job. I was asking for half. They sent me a check for the whole thing. Yep. I said, here you go. Didn't bat an eye. Just they saw what we were building and wanted to invest in it. And they've put, I think we've graduated 3 classes with it now, and we've probably got about 8 kids working for them. And they know they're not going to get them all, but there's CW, which is all over the Southeast. We've got Meriwether Site Solutions right next door. They're putting our kids to work. Robinson Paving. So part of my day is building those relationships where, and I go to them and I tell them, I don't need money. I don't want money because I'm okay on money. We have been blessed with some grants and we have really good equipment. I just want you to put my kids to work or come talk to my kids, or come see if they're worth an interview or putting them to work. And so that's a big part of what I do too. So I look at what the needs are, what's in our area, what's high wage and high demand. I build those courses, and then I bring those industry people in to work with our kids and our teachers. So that's not a one-day thing, obviously. There's a lot of there's a slice to each of that pie that I eat each day. And going back to my introverted personality, doesn't mesh well with that. So I've really had to, make a conscious effort to build those relationships and partnerships.
Do you see more kids wanting to go this trade route
yes.
than a traditional college route?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. Now, there's a lot that like the academic side of things, but there's a chunk that love what we do. Welding's super high demand for us. Construction's super high demand for us. Heavy equipment's got a pretty high demand.
Why though?
Well, like Pike County, parts of our community are real rural. So, some demographics about Harris County. We're about 35,000 population, so it's pretty big. But we've got 3 fast food restaurants in Harris County, and 2 of them are Subway. One is KFC in Pine Mountain. Red lights, you can count on your 2 hands how many red lights are in the community. A lot of large landowners in our community. Some famous hunters. Like I said, Michael lives there. Bill Jordan lives there. Jeff Foxworthy lives there. If you've seen the Masterbuilt Grills, the McLemore families, they live there. You've got a lot of people have their runaway farms are there. Like, what's her first name? Loeffler. She was a representative in Congress, I think it was.
Yeah.
She's got a
Kelly
farm.
Loeffler.
That's right. She's got a farm there. You just have tons of huge land. So there's a lot of rural areas out there. But we're right by Columbus and we're right by LaGrange. So there are pockets of city too. So you still got some of those blue collar kind of kids who are used to being outside. Our ag program's super, super strong. You got kids that are used to being outside. They've shown animals, or they've worked in gardens or done forestry plots or operated heavy equipment. A lot of entrepreneurs in the community, so there's a real core group of those people there. And then when I introduce our programs to 8th graders who are coming to 9th grade, I tell them real quick, y'all just heard all the stuff about the academic classes where you sit and take notes. I'm going to tell you about the fun classes. And they've already seen our simulators where they're $100,000 simulators where they're driving dozers. They've seen our virtual welding helmet and equipment. They've seen how we take learning and make it tangible. So there's a draw to that. And, I saw your eyes perk up when I talked about my girl who was a second place Mason. My framer, my carpenter who won second last year is a girl. So I've got some amazing welding young ladies, a lot of attention to detail. So we call those non-traditional students.
It's incredible, though.
It is, Levi.
Super cool.
It is. Like I've got a girl who, right after she finished high school, she went to work for a metal fab shop, and she builds trailers for boats, custom trailers for boats. They come in, they tell her what they've got. She pulls it out, she draws it up. She can take CAD designs and put it on a CNC plasma table and cut out stuff. I mean, it's pretty high. Some of it's pretty high tech, but she's just extremely attention to detail kid and gets it done.
Tell me about the girl who's a brick mason, because brick masonry is not a glamorous job, and it's a dying art form.
Very much so. And when Brassfield hired her, they pretty much said she won't lay brick for us, but she knows brick laying. So she'll be a great bridge from my guys actually doing the work, potentially cheaper labor, and the owners. She's going to be that go-between for them. Her name's Courtney, and Courtney got into the carpentry class, construction class, and I don't know if she's got a family background in it, but she picked up a trowel in September and won second in February. I mean, just was a knack. She's just a knack for it, man. And Lars, again, attention to detail and following instructions. So when you go to these competitions, and we do competitions all over the state, they tell you what they want, and they even present a model. They'll have a finished product and say that's what the finished product looks like. So she studies that, and she studies the instructions and understands how she'll be scored. So, for example, one of the things they're going to measure you on is your highest level you get to in brick, because you got an hour. No, you got 3 hours to do the work. So there, you got on the clock, and you might have a 4-foot wall by maybe 1.5 feet deep. I can't remember. Yeah, you got those cinder blocks are usually the base layer, and they're 2 wide right there. So, they're about 6 inches. So it's probably 1 foot deep. Anyway, so she looks at the instructions and how are you going to score me? And then I'm going to perform to that level. One of the values you're going to give me is the highest level I make it. So when times get close, she's going to throw 2 bricks on either end, because all they're going to do is put a level on it. And she knows the trick of that and is able to get some more points right there. She's really neat. So like, she doesn't have mortar running down her bricks. Her joints are real neat. She cleans them up. Again, just attention to detail, following instructions.
So how did she learn these skills? Like you said, she picked it up in September.
So our teacher introduced it, and our teacher's not a brick mason. He's a framer. He's a carpenter. But it's part of the course. You get a little bit of everything. You get a little bit of plumbing. You get a little bit of electrical, a little bit of HVAC, all that. So in part of our experience, she played with it and she loved it. My guy's not the mason, so we called Brassfield, who we had a partnership with already, and said, "Hey, you got a brick mason that can come work with our kid?" Yeah, I mean, Red loves teaching young folks this kind of stuff. So I'm gonna send Red. I'll get him off the clock, a little bit early every Tuesday, and I'll send him to your school, and I'll pay him his time working with that kid. And so Red came in and worked with Courtney and honed skills. I mean, just somebody in an industry partner who was willing to send somebody else to help with it. And that's crucial. And that's what I tell people, industry people all the time, you need to go recruit these kids. A lot of skills are here too. You don't need to, don't tell me you got a workforce problem and you're not willing to change the way you're doing things. You need to be willing to come into our schools and pitch our kids. And kids are not pitched the same way as they used to be. My kids want to know, how much money am I going to put in my pocket at the end of the week? We're talking about you go to McDonald's and make $15, $20 an hour. Yeah, but there's no benefits that go with it. There's no pension that goes with it. Whereas Brassfield's going to put, they're going to pay your health insurance, and you got a premium you got to pay. But they're also going to give you, match what you put in your 401 up to a certain amount. So all the benefits right there. And kids don't, that's not very valuable to them. They want to know how much I'm going to put in my pocket at the end of the week, because I'm going to spend it that week. So many of those guys and girls, that's why I pound into them the 70-30 rule. Go ahead and budget your 70%, but take care of this 30%, put it over here. And when you start getting raises and extra money, try not to live on that unless you need it. Add to the retirement fund or the savings fund, So again, why those partnerships are super, super important. And I've got some that I can call the guy right now and he'll answer, but he's not going to send anybody. So he's really there for show. That's fine. Because he'll go speak to our board on our behalf and say the school is doing really good things. And he carries a lot of weight with that. So I'll take any partnership I can get, whether it's symbiotic where we're both benefiting, just you're benefiting, just I'm benefiting, we're going to work together, especially if I got a chance to help my kids. So I'm looking to get kids in a workforce, and some of it is straight out of high school, and some of it's post secondary. Some of it's they got to go to tech school. They need more certificates than we offer for welding. So I can offer welding certificates to kids like overhead welding, vertical welding, horizontal welding. We can offer all those certificates, but there are some others that they might need. Acetylene or some MIG stuff. So. I understand some kids have to go places after they leave us, but if I can give you a good foundation and especially connect you with somebody, I mean, you've got that much more experience. And I tell those 8th graders that are coming up to us, hey, you think you want to be welding? Come on, try it out and try it early, because if you decide you don't like it, well, maybe you'll like this other thing that we've got. And it's not going to cost you $1 to try all this other stuff out. It's like the buffet. You come try all these careers out, and I promise you I got something that will relate to you.
That's really cool, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I would have liked having something like that.
And there again, that's Pike's the same way, and I can tell you who Pike County CTA person is, and they have heavy equipment there, and we've talked about that. But in Harris County, because we have one school, it's big. And in Meriwether County, you got 2 schools, and they're both super, super small. You divided resources there. Whereas I've got all my resources, quote, under one roof, one school. So the opportunities I'm able to afford people, the buffet's much bigger, the catalog's much bigger than a Pike County or a Manchester or a Greenville or even a Upson. They all offer similar things. I can just offer more of them. And that's one of the benefits of the bigger school. Now, you don't have the close relationship with the teachers and that kind of stuff, or all the teachers in the building. But there's some pros to being in a big school too.
You mentioned the person at Pike County, Shane Moore.
No, the lady I'm talking about is Jennifer Shepard. She's
okay. No,
Jennifer does. I think she's the director, which really that means you handle some of the paperwork. So I'm responsible for all the grants in our world, all the reports that have to be submitted to the state. I mean, it just falls on me. Jennifer, if I'm not mistaken, is also does work-based learning, where the students go to school part of the day and go to work part of the day. But then she's probably got some other folks under her, like the guy you're talking about right there. What does he do?
I believe he runs the shop and teaches the welding and the heavy equipment operation.
Yep.
That sort of thing.
Yep. And they have those teachers have a statewide group too, where they work together on, hey, how are you doing this? What kind of tricks do you have there? Like my teacher went somewhere to a conference and came back and was like, this is how I need to teach electrical wiring, the 3-way switch. I don't need to hook up my suicide cord, drop cord, and run 120 volts right here. I'm going to wire up this Milwaukee 20-volt battery and run all my lights and everything that way. My switches, my plugs, everything. And so he picked that up from somebody else in the state. So they work really well together. And I'm a big proponent for going to those things. And I pay good money for, pay their hotel, their mileage, their food, to go to those conferences so that they can learn from somebody else. So I would dare say our heavy equipment teachers know each other. Our welding teachers know each other, have been around each other.
What do you think's going to be over the next 5 years highest in demand job?
Construction. From a labor standpoint, it's construction. Now, and this is the case for everywhere too. Healthcare is really big. There's a huge demand for healthcare workers. There's some technology, we think of technology booming, and it did for a while. AI is taking a hit, causing that to take a hit. There's less demand for it. It's not going to eliminate the tech jobs, because there's got to be somebody kind of doing the checks and balances, somebody verifying it, somebody telling the computer what it needs to know. But the Pike's the same. I looked at it today. Construction and healthcare are the two biggest demanding jobs, like career-wise. I mean, you can look at some industry stuff, like I said, cooks. That's not so much what I'm looking at. I'm looking at high demand, high wage, and those are the areas. And we offer healthcare at our school too. I mean, our and I'll leave you a pamphlet. Our programs are so vast, from what we've talked a lot about to graphic design. I've got 3 healthcare classes, sports medicine, and then what it's like being in nursing. I've got all the technology stuff, computer programming, cybersecurity, networking, teaching. I've got kids that are leaving high school and certified to go work as a parapro. Marketing, we do some marketing too. Firefighting, law enforcement. We send our kids. It's pretty neat. In April every year, our kids are finishing up the firefighting pathway. I mean, they go into a burning building. I mean, that's part of their end of the year assessments. We've got 3 Connexes, our local fire department, and we light pallets in there, and they got to go in and put them out. It's 800 degrees in there, and they're running in there, putting fires out. It's wild, man. It's wild. Crazy. And so, I mean, to say I love my job is not an understatement at all. I mean, it's so exciting, and it can be so varied. It's the all ends of the spectrum.
What's the most gratifying part about your job?
Seeing kids developing a career, finding something that they can go make a living with and provide for their family. And I'll one up that a little bit. Seeing kids find a career that is not just life changing, but generational changing. So we serve our schools. Our community has several group homes. The group homes have, I got boys group homes and girls group homes, and more or less these are young men and women who are in the custody of the state, not necessarily for behavior reasons, but let's say their parents just really fell on hard times, and or drug addicts or something, and they just could not provide for their children, and the state took them. They might put them in a home, and those kids come to our school, and so as you can imagine, they got some baggage that they're bringing along, and tough obstacles to overcome. Well, we've got a great kid who was a thorn in some people's side, but my heavy equipment teacher had it in his heart and said, I'm going to do everything I can to give this kid an opportunity. That kid now works for C.W. Matthews. He's been there with him over a year now. So we took a kid who very likely did not have a future himself. And if he'll maintain, which you got to pass the drug test, you got to show up to work, you got the normal stuff you got to uphold. If he'll stay with it, can really not just change his life trajectory, but when his kids are born, they're going to live a different life than they would have had he gone back to whatever he knew as normal. So that's really exciting to see a generational change like that. But I mean, and I got story after story of kids getting into careers, changing careers. Hey, I thought I was going to be in healthcare. Turns out I love this firefighting stuff, and I'm still providing healthcare. Because they're all EMTs. A lot of them going to get paramedics. So that's the thing, to see kids find a career that they love, and if we can win some awards with it, that's great too. That's just icing on the cake though, man.
Does that help you get grants?
The awards, no. It might help me with some business partnerships.
Okay.
And then too, it gives validity to any naysayers around us who might say we're putting too much into this. Yeah, we're putting a lot into it, but we're getting some really good rewards out of it. And the state of Georgia has really put a lot of money into it to support what we do. That's something Governor Kemp has done a great job, has pushed for. And over the last, I'd say 5 years, we're probably in the neighborhood of $800,000, $900,000 worth of grants.
Wow.
I mean, like our heavy equipment grants were $417,000. And that was for 4 simulators. And we teach excavators and dozers, D8s and D3s on our dozers. And I mean, you sit in this simulator and you're tracking and you feel the vibrations. You run over a tree, you feel it. You tip that excavator off the side of a hill, it almost dumps you out. So I mean, it's very realistic stuff. And because the state has invested in skilled trades, I mean, I just, have really had the opportunity to get some great tools. Like I was telling you about that CNC plasma table that my welding shop has. I mean, that was all part of a grant. That was a $65,000 table that the state of Georgia paid for. So,
well, because they see the importance of these things. They know these jobs are in demand and how important they are.
And there's a lot of lobbying power from those industry people too. So CW was a real big proponent for getting these programs in schools. And so they went to their lobbying people and said, hey, we want y'all to talk to the people who pass bills and pass budgets and push for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that got a ball rolling. And again, there's partnerships right there. I had those conversations with them. What they asked what we need. And depending on what industry is, it might be, we need upgraded equipment. It might be we just need experience, like healthcare. Pre-COVID, I had kids working in ERs, as apprentices. After COVID, I just got kids in over the last year into the hospitals. Now they're not doing as much as they used to, but I need those kids to go in and experience that, because you might think you want to be a nurse until you see somebody bleeding out on the floor, or they lost control of their bowels and it's on the table that you're working on. That might change your mind real quick. And I'd much rather you see that in high school than your 3rd year of college or 4th year of college when it's almost too late to back out. So I want those kids to have those opportunities and experiences.
Where do you think the biggest labor gap exists right now? What industry?
The need? Construction is really big. Manufacturing is another big one. And manufacturing's changed a lot over the years. My dad, being from Meriwether County, we were cotton mills, we were textile mills over there. Callaway and Milliken found it, they all had mills over there. And growing up, my mom said, I don't care what you do, you're just going to college. I don't care what you do as a career, you're just going to go to college. And my dad said, I don't care what you do, you're just not going to work in a factory. Because there were 4 Ds, I think, that went with factories back then. They were dark, they were damp, they were dangerous, and they were dull. And advanced manufacturing is vastly different now. When you go look at a Kia manufacturing, there's not a spot of dirt on the floor. It's not laborious in that you're not moving 100-pound sheets of steel or rolls of steel. You're operating a robot. So they want people who will come in and man that equipment. And then one thing that they're really pushing for, and this is a hard job to fill, is somebody who can work on and program those robots. That's a trade called mechatronics, and there's a pretty good demand for that. But typical high school students who have the aptitude for that are going to be going to school for engineering. So they don't, quote, waste their time on my side of things. They're going to take the advanced maths, the statistics, calculus, all the advanced courses, because they're just really intelligent kids, and that's where they flourish in those classes. So I have a hard time recruiting some of those kids. So what I tell people are, I have an automotive program. I don't have a whole lot of automotive industry, like repair type places in our community, but what I argue there is I've got transferable skills. So if you can work on a car, you can work on a lot of things, because if you can work on the brakes of a car, you understand hydraulics. If you can work on the electrical system, well, obviously you understand electrical and low voltage. Mechanical, you can diagnose cars, where you can diagnose some robots. So I preach transferable skills. So I might not have a one-to-one match, but I've got a class that teaches similar skills that you're needing in your factory. So let's get some of those kids over there. And we've had some success with that too. You know, Pratt Whitney is a company down in Columbus that builds tank engines and plane engines a lot for the military base in Columbus, Fort Benning. And a lot of my kids in my welding, engineering, and automotive program can go to that because they've got those similar skill sets in both areas.
I've heard it said that plumbers, electrician, and HVAC workers are going to be the next millionaires. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, they're probably millionaires now, man. I mean, I think that's happening right now. If you're in it and can manage it. Now the issue becomes, like I talked about with your career. My neighbor across the street runs an HVAC business. He's a one-man show. He has now hired 2 kids that are just out of high school. He pays them $10 an hour. And I tell Chase, hey, if you can play things, and he knows all this, if you can play things right and train them up, well, you can have them with their own trucks going and doing the maintenance or repair or install, and you can go, solicit more business. You can go get the jobs. And he does residential for the most part. He does some commercial, but you're able to diversify more right there. So, yeah, I mean, that's going on now. And when we talk about millionaires, though, it's, again, I'm looking at not do you have $1 million in your checking account, but do you have $1 million worth of assets? You get 4 trucks. I mean, you got $250,000 worth of trucks right there, and that's not with a piece of equipment on it. That's just driving around right there. So yeah, if you've got the work ethic like we talked about earlier, you can make great money. And realistically, I mean, I got a kid that I talked to and about saving money. He works at a body shop, and I'm like, all right, Walker, how you doing with your savings? I'm doing great. I got $50,000 saved. That's great, Walker. But what kind of interest are you drawing on that? And he's just got it in a savings account or a checking account. And he flips trucks. That's one thing he does. He'll buy a truck, tinker with it a little bit, and flip it and sell it. But having that entrepreneurial mind is where it's at. I mean, I think that's if I could say you want the fastest route to it, it's probably being an entrepreneur. Now, you're probably going to fail a time or two in business too. But I think if you can build a business that's valuable, people value the service you provide, you got a lot of opportunities, either growing it or selling it and starting it again. There's another avenue. I used to work with Jackson Heat and Air out of LaGrange. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Blue and orange stripes on the truck, on the vans. And that's what he does. He started out as a one-man show and is huge right now. And he'll buy competitors, and I'll buy your business. I'll even pay you to come work for me. And he'll put them managing crews and stuff like that. So if you're looking for a growth mindset, you got it. Now, do I think you can be a one-man show and do it all? I think it's tough, man. I think it's tough. I think the risk is high going the other way, and perhaps it's a gamble. But they say high risk, high reward. There's also a chance for loss right on some of that too. But I would tell anybody who took that gamble and failed, try again. Just do it again. Learn from your mistakes and don't do those next time. Improve on them.
I think that's the biggest dilemma for me is what I offer, is it valuable enough? Is the services I provide, are they valuable enough to where people are willing to pay a premium or just even pay to have it done?
So, I mean, I know you built a house, and I would like to hear more about that, but is your job more renovation type stuff? Is it new construction?
I would say more renovation stuff.
Yeah. So after knowing that you built a house, compare that work versus renovation. That's a pretty big gamble, wasn't it?
It was. The new build side I like a lot because you know every step of the process. You know what goes into the framing, the plumbing, the HVAC, and you see it all go behind the walls, so you know where stuff's at. There's no surprises like there could be in a renovation. You go flip a house and you pull up some carpet and the floor's falling out.
Unexpected expenses.
Right. And so, yes, it's more expensive to go the new route and build new, but it can sometimes be more rewarding. There's more risk, but it's more rewarding.
So some of the data that I look at for business, when I'm looking at things, is I look at, and this stuff's not hard to find, like how many new home construction permits were pulled for Pike County over the year 2025, for example. I think there were 77 homes or permitted homes for Pike County that year. And then you can look at the number of, or the growth rates in Pike County. How does that compare to the growth rate? And then you look at things like workforce in Pike County. How many workforce age people live in Pike County? How many workforce people come from outside of Pike to work in Pike, or how many leave Pike to go work elsewhere? And so while there are risks and gambles, if you have some info going into it, it can be a little more calculated. For example, if you know the average home sold for in Pike County, what that number was, well, that might give you some direction in terms of what kind of home you're going to build. So if the average home built or sold in Pike County is $250,000, is it really worth it to build a $120,000 home? Or is it worth it to build a $400,000 home? Or do you want to be in that $200,000, $250,000 range? So, yeah, there's still risks, but if you got some data, it can drive it a little bit and make it a little less risky. Another thing I look at too is birth rates. We talk about people needing workforce, and if you're going to build a 2-bedroom home, 3-bedroom home, 4-bedroom home, the trends across the nation, and Georgia's impacted too, for childbirth is declining. So that's a steady decline, and it's going on across the country, and projections are that will continue to decline. So the need for a 4-bedroom house might not be as appealing as a 2-bedroom house. So knowing some things like that, and those are things that I think just when you get ready to start taking more risks, that you look at, all right, how can I shore up myself so that the risk is not as great? It's still a risk, but you're making more educated guesses now. So going back to my question of reno versus, building right there, and the value question, what skills does Levi still have that his competitors don't? And I don't understand construction, so I couldn't even begin to walk down that road. But as an entrepreneur, you got to set yourself apart and say, well, I do this and nobody else does it. Or so few people do it and there's a demand for it. I can remember when your dad started cutting grass however many years ago. He learned it from, I think he picked that business model from Brian Mitchell, who being cut with in college, and just saw how Brian did it and mimicked it, and, knocked on doors and had those, people he knew to say, hey, give me a chance, give me a shot at the bid, and took chances, really went, pushed himself in some of those areas. Some of those that had, I cut my grass, and there's a dollar amount that I would say I'm not going to cut my grass anymore. If somebody would do it for this low of a dollar, I'd give it to them. I'd give them that job. So figuring out where that is, and you're still able to make a profit. There's a whole lot to the business side of a skilled labor that people don't encounter, that they don't appreciate. My construction teacher would tell you real quick, he's a dang good carpenter. Dang good carpenter. Terrible businessman. He was in business for himself, and the business side of it drove him away from it. He said, I can produce a great product, but it's the business side of things. It's knowing I need materials, 4 days from now, so I better order it today. It's looking ahead, or, I'm going to finish this job in a week, and I need to be on this site over here, and I need all this materials laid down already when I get there. So just the business side of those things are tough. And I don't know, I think it's hard to balance your goal of doing all the work and all the business side of things. Because you say you don't like the business side of things. So can you find somebody that can do it for you? Can you hire somebody to do it for you? There's a whole lot that I don't understand about that industry.
I've come to sort of enjoy I hate math, but I've started to like the math of business and building spreadsheets, and Claude is a dang good assistant for building spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And I have an idea, and I'm be like, I'll give you an example. I built this job tracking spreadsheet that's like has all my upcoming jobs, all my revenue in progress, all my scheduled revenue, and then total revenue and everything. That way I'm not like, okay, well, I told them I'll get to this job. Oh, wait, I still got to get to this job. I can just pull that spreadsheet up and see what's upcoming for me, when's my estimated start date, when's my estimated end date, and kind of go from there. So try to figure out those things that work for me. I have a master tracking spreadsheet for my business, and now I'm like, would it make more sense to have a subscription to QuickBooks, and would I be able to see it better instead of trying to figure out and find, when I find a bug in the spreadsheet, figure out how to fix that or whatever it may be.
So do you ask people who are in the business, like Isaiah? I mean, do you talk to him about how he manages that?
All the time.
Yeah, good.
All the time.
So you got to learn from people who are, already doing what you want to be doing,
Well, in some ways it's changed because, he'll tell me, he'll be like, well, at the end of the year, I'll just look at all the receipts and then I'm like, I can't do that. So for me, it's about once a month I have all my receipts in a, little bank money bag or whatever. I take them out and I just categorize them. I put them into folders, track it on my spreadsheet, and it's worked great for me. And it's kind of given me the ability to wrap my mind around the whole business and how it's moving, how it's working. But I'm also like, is this sustainable for growth?
Right.
How long can I be the man that sits here and tracks all this stuff? Could I be doing something more valuable that's growing the business?
So that's the price point you got to figure out, I think. What would I be willing to pay if I didn't have to do that?
But a part of that too is having the business to come in so that I can afford it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And then so when you start paying, let's just for round numbers, say you got to pay $100 a month for that. Well, you need to go pick up $120 worth of work. So by freeing up that time, are you going to be able to generate that extra income? Because, and to be honest with you, trading $100 for $100, it's a wash right there. But if you can, trade $100 for them to manage that, and you go double your income with it,
it's
probably
worth it. Yeah. Well, another example, I'm working with this SEO management company. It's called Topline Pro, and they have an app, and I can invoice people through the app and run a website and all of that stuff. And I've seen a year ago, I didn't have a Google business profile. I was like, what's that? Well, my whole idea of business was from the perspective of my uncle. He's been in it since the early 2000s, and he's just big from word of mouth. People know he does good work and he stays busy. Well, and I thought immediately I could just go out and, people know my dad and my family and know we do good work, and I'm going to have work to keep me busy. And that's not the case. The world's changed, and I realized, okay, I have to advertise. Okay, I got to be on Google.
Yeah.
What do I need to do so that I rank the top in my area, and I do rank the top of my area now, so I try and stay on people about, hey, can I get a Google review from you after a job? And all of these little things I'm trying to learn my pricing.
Yeah.
I built a calculator with Claude, and it does my pricing. It takes my monthly overhead, it takes my profit margin, and it takes what I want to make an hour and the estimated hours it'll take, and it calculates all of that and the material costs. And so I'm trying to learn things to optimize.
And did you use that on your bids?
I do.
Yeah, that's great.
I do. Yeah,
that's
so I pay for me, I pay $20 a month for Claude and a Claude Pro subscription, and it does my job bids, it does stuff with podcasting, and it does just
cool.
random stuff. I have a random question about something or a problem I'm trying to solve, and it's been great. I've built several spreadsheets with it. I built that calculator with it, and I just testing the limits, pushing the limits. So, and it's only $20 a month. I mean, it's made
it's tax write-off, right?
Right, exactly.
But no, that's great. So, and what you're talking about with Google right there, so everything we've talked about has been the business side of it, the accounting side of it. And now you're talking about the marketing side of it, which is a third job to it.
Yeah.
And if you're not marketing, nobody knows about you. I mean, you're 100% word of mouth, and that can only go so far, So
right. Well, and that's another thing that I've thought deeply about later. I've looked into changing my business name because I went and sat with beginning of the year, I sat with a local business owner. He's his name's Dino Garage Doors. They're locally here, and so I was just like, I called him one day, pulled up to the office. I was like, "Hey, could I meet with you and pick your brain?" He's been in business 5 or 6 years, and the first year or two, he had a different name. It was like Georgia Garage Doors or something like that. And he said him and his wife went to a marketing conference in Orlando, and they came back and it completely shifted their perspective.
Really?
So they changed the name of the business. They changed the logo to something recognizable. Now it's a purple and green dinosaur, kind of like Barney the dinosaur, but it's like very friendly. And he told me something that stuck with me. He said, a lot of these people who are getting on Google and trying to find you are women. And when they see this cute, cuddly purple dinosaur, that's appealing to them. That's comfortable. That's safe.
Yeah, it's good
for them. And so now he said in his 5th or 6th year of business, he said last year they did $650K, and he said he thinks he can break $2 million this year.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's been a one-man show so far. But now he's brought on a couple different technicians. He said I can train a technician in 3 months. Yeah. And and so he's talked to me about how important his SEO management has been in having reviews reviewed on Google, and how he pays $600 a month for a location in Peachtree City, an office front, just so he can have another Google business profile page and have a street address. He said, I don't ever go there. Yeah. He said, but it's $600 a month, and getting one job from that can pay for the whole thing. Right. Now, his jobs are quicker. He can do one in a few hours, and they're a lot more expensive.
Profit margin's higher.
Yes. Yeah. Much higher than something that I do. Yeah. But the model is there, and I'm like, okay, how can I implement that? So in my business, I'm thinking about, okay, do I change my business name? Because he told me straight up, I said, be real with me, shoot me straight. He's like, your business name sucks. He said, it's too long. Nobody's going to remember it. And so I've thought about that. And obviously, stuff's picked up a little bit, but I'm like, okay, where can I take this? And I've got some ideas for maybe a name, and I'm like, okay, having a mascot, okay, what colors would I pick to, really capture your eye? And, you see my van on the side of the road, and you're like, oh, scan the QR code or dial the number. Yeah. And now for me, I'm like, oh, I got that little trailer out there I pull my tools around, but I'm like, oh, what if I get a van? What if I get a van and I can have my table saw slide out the side, and then everything's super organized, and then I can drive that. Or if I hire somebody, I can send them out in that, and then I can come in my own vehicle, or we can split up. Yeah. So this is all stuff I think about.
That's great that you're talking to them. And that's something that, when you mention his higher profit margins versus what you do, I mean, think of all you have to offer, like what reno jobs you can do, and you probably have an idea which ones have the greatest return, right?
Yeah.
So what if you pushed that? This is my specialty.
Okay.
I'm that guy who can, let's say it's putting in barn doors. Like, I mean, that's real trendy and that kind of stuff. I'm the guy who does this, and you show several pictures of that, and that's your bread and butter. That's where you're making your big bucks on, because probably less time and labor and materials and that kind of stuff, and push what gets a higher profit margin. I mean, that's what, when you saying what that guy was doing versus what you're doing. I mean, because you're not, he's doing one thing, he's installing doors and, you know, that kind of stuff, or a few things, but you're doing everything, right?
Yes.
Everything. And so, I mean, you're a quote jack of all trades, and I won't say master of none, but it's hard to be a master of all of them. But if you can freaking do a bathroom reno like nobody's business, and you make bank on that, I push it.
Yeah, that was another thing he said. He said you got to figure out your niche. And that's been hard for me, because I don't know what that is. Because growing up with Isaiah, working for him from the time that I was 12 to the time that I was 18, like, we did everything. And that's something I love about the job, is doing everything, the diversity of it. It's not the same thing,
job every day,
boring every day. But do I suffer for that? Am I willing to have that trade-off to where, it's boring sometimes, but I specialize and I'm like a whiz at this. Nobody can remodel a bathroom the way I can.
Nobody puts in windows like Levi.
Right. Yeah. To where people are willing to pay the extra money, be put on a waiting list to have me do their bathroom remodel.
And that's a business model that, I mean, I wouldn't think through those things, you know. But you talking to those people, and fortunately they're willing to have those conversations with you. I mean, that's gold, man, because they've stumbled and failed at some things, and they can save you from it. Or they might tell you, hey, you're digging yourself in a hole and you don't realize it yet, but if you'll change direction right now, change your name, you know, change your marketing strategy, it's going to pay huge dividends. So yeah, those people willing to talk to you about that's hugely important.
Well, and I can become a tightwad sometimes, to where I'm like, oh, I just want to save for a van or this new tool or whatever. And I'm like, and I got to like check myself to be like, no, what's going to keep the money coming in? Like, obviously, you know, buying that tool might make me more efficient, or where I don't have to borrow this one, or buying a van might give me more opportunity or whatever. But am I going to, is the trade-off, is the payoff going to be better if I put that into advertising, to running Google ads, running Meta ads, or getting a billboard in town? It's all stuff I gotta think about.
Yeah, that's, like I said, that's the business side of things that can make or break, you know, what you do. You know, especially as an entrepreneur.
And I've told my uncle, I tell him this all the time, actually. I said, running my own thing and having to figure out all these issues and problem solve every single day, I said, I have so much more greater of appreciation for you and all the stuff you did behind the scenes, not when you were there working with us, but when you had to go bid a job, or like when you leave here, I'll get on the computer and bid some jobs. You know, it's just how it is. But, you know, as much as that can be stressful sometimes, I'm kind of addicted to it. I love doing it.
Get a little high from it.
Yeah.
A little rush.
Yeah.
I get it. No, I get it.
Yeah, because I'm like, hey, that's not in a greedy sense of that's more money, but that's like, that's another step in the right direction, whether they accept it or not. You know, that's more quotes going out, so it raises my percentage of having one that's accepted or whatever. So yeah, appreciation for the business side of things, because I didn't see that when I worked for him and clocked in, clocked out. You don't see that, you know. Even when I go back to work for him, you know, I'm ready to be like, all right, when's this over? I'm like, hey, I enjoy not having to manage anything or figure anything out. I'm just a worker.
Right.
Sometimes it's nice.
I agree 100%. And some of my side works that way. Like, I'll go, you need help with this? All right, I'll come do that. You know, and I don't have to manage people. I just go do this. Yeah. It's fun.
So let me ask you this. Do you know who Mike Rowe is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's kind of into the same things you are.
Very much so.
He's got this big foundation that they grant scholarships to individuals to go out and start businesses and stuff within the trades. So with that, I want to ask you this. I plan to have him on one day. One way or another, I'm going to get him on the show. What's a question you got for him? What would you ask him? This could be pertaining to the workforce, or this could be pertaining to one of his shows.
I mean, some of these same conversations, man. Like I'm not starstruck by him. I mean, he's bringing light to something that's highly needed, highly in demand. So I would ask the question: where are the fail points for people who go out and do these trade jobs? It's the same conversation we're having, Levi. What's the difference between the guy who's going and framing or the guy who runs the business, who's the same one? What makes or breaks them? And then how can we ensure that it's the make and not the break? Whether it's a curriculum you hand them, workbook. Hey, you're going to start your business? Can the Mike Rowe Foundation create the idiot's guide to running a business, a trade business, or, the online class or something? Can the Mike Rowe Foundation figure out a way to make sure if they produce a good product that they're going to have a good business? And there's no way to guarantee it, but it's the things we're talking about. It's highest profit margins, it's marketability, it's building a fan base, for lack of a better term, people who are going to go out and sing your praises. I think that's what the answer is. But that's what I'd ask him. How can you help somebody who likes laying brick to ensure that they're going to have a good business? What's the
transition from just a laborer to a business owner?
And maybe not even transition, but just do them both. If possible. I'm sure there's research that you could do to say the percentage of people who do them both, who manage their own business and are their primary workers. What's the percentage of those who make it 10 years? There'd be some research that on a bigger scale, you could figure out some of those things. And then if that's what Levi Steele wanted, all right, here are the 10% who did make it or whatever. Here's what they did to make it. Here's the common thing that they did. Or the people who split and gave up the trade per se for the business side of the trade to go bid and quote and manage job sites. What did they do? How did they transition over to that and keep their business, the labor side, going? You know what I mean? Like, give me a workbook. I like swinging a hammer, but I like, to make a profit off of it. How can I maximize both of those? And if he can figure out a way to lay out a blueprint, that's what I'd want. I'd want to be able to package that and give it away.
Yeah.
And I think he's a benevolent guy. I mean, he wants to give it away.
Yeah.
And this, that stuff's there. I mean, there's just gobs and gobs of data about workforce, about jobs, about job creation, job loss. I mean, there's so much information out that you can get lost in it.
But how do you know that someone's going to be successful in business? Like, how are you confident in giving them $1 million to go start their business at 22 years old? Because what are the stats? At least 90%, if not more, of businesses fail within the first 2 to 5 years. And then what is it? 97% of those fail in the first 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, I don't know what the stats are, but I'm sure it's high likelihood of struggling. Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to. Well, first of all, it's hard to turn a profit. I mean, a lot of businesses generally say you're going to spend 2 years and not pay yourself, and that's just hard to do. So if you're doing that, I mean, you're already ahead of the game. No, there's no way to guarantee it. There's a lot of failure in business. Going back to perseverance, I mean, that's the difference maker. I mean, those people who make it, they failed. I mean, it's just what drove them to keep going. I don't know if Mike. I think Mike's team could build a blueprint and this is not the guaranteed way, but this is the best way. You
think that's needed?
Yeah. I mean, I think that goes, based on the numbers we just threw out, and they're not statistically 100% accurate, but yeah, I mean, a lot of businesses fail. Most businesses fail. That's a no-brainer to say that. What can we do to ensure they're most likely to succeed? So what are the failures? And then how do we coach them up so that they don't encounter those things that cause them to fail?
And how do we get that percentage down?
Yeah. The percentage that fail, how do we get it down? But so much of it too is, I mean, if you're the best paper airplane maker in the world, I don't know that you're going to get rich doing it, because what's the market for it? So you gotta find a marketable skill too.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, you're in one, man. There's a guy that his wife works with me, and his name's Michael, and I'm like, hey dog, I just got some fascia board needs replacing, or some hardy board needs to be, siding needs to be replaced, anything like that. You come look at it? Yeah, I'll come look at it. Hey dog, it's been 3 weeks, and I know you're busy. You think you come? Oh man, I'm so sorry, I'm so busy. And there's just such a high demand for, his stuff right there. So the job I'm asking for is chump change. And he doesn't want to take off from a $10,000 job to come do a $800 job. So like I said, having those marketable skills.
And I'll say with that's a whole nother dynamic, because I'm learning, I'm trying to navigate that too. When people want me to come look at things, and even you saying that reminds me now of somebody I got to reach back out to. And it's not that I don't want to do it, but there's so many other things going that you're trying to, and that's part of the reason why I created that job, scheduled job spreadsheet,
right,
so I don't forget.
But there again, I mean, are you going to come do that job for me that's going to take you 2, maybe 3 days, and you're going to clear $500 on, or are you going to take a 2-week long job that's going to get you $12,000?
See, but my problem with that is I would take that job just because that's the type of person I am. Like, I would do that for you.
So what if you had this though, Levi? What if you had, let's just say Jacob was working for you, and like, all right, Jacob, I'm dropping you off over here. I'm paying you $16 an hour to do this job. I'm going to go work this job over here. How would you feel about that? Do you feel confident enough to pass his work off as yours, or let him represent your brand?
If I can train them enough to that point,
and that's
absolutely.
I think that's how you get to that kind of stuff. But like, I understand the and not everybody does. I get ticked by it, but I understand it. Michael's going to go do those high paying jobs more than he is mine, and I'm not mad about it. It's dollars and cents. I mean, it's about making a living, and when you're providing for your family, I can't expect you to take chump change and then me nickel and dime you about stuff. So maybe I got a different perspective on that workforce too.
And the thing is too, I think less and less people understand it or see it from your perspective, because they're not in your line of work. Agreed. They're just like, why is he not out here? Why is he not out here doing this? Is my money not as good as their money? And they don't understand that whole side of things.
Yeah, and it's hard to get people to come like give you quotes. I mean, just because they're 3 months backed up.
Yeah.
So it's hard to think about the 4th month when I got 3 months worth of work, and you want to, like I said, you want a $1,000 job done or $2,000 job done.
That's where my uncle is right now. He said, I have work until March.
And I'm not the least bit surprised. I'm not.
Like, that's where I'm trying to get to,
Right.
But hey, it's been a blessing. I think I have work scheduled for a month and a half now. And in 4 months ago, I won it.
Yeah.
I want to have. So I see.
You want to come replace some face boards, Marma?
Hey,
come on. I send you some pictures.
There. Okay, yeah, shoot me some photos.
Okay. But there again, that's another thing. I mean, it's an hour and 10 minutes from here to there. Is it? I mean, that's 2.5 hours of windshield time.
Right. And so that means like somebody like me is going to have to charge more than somebody that lives in your area. And people get mad at that, but that's just how.
You got to pay the bills.
Right.
Yeah. And that, like I said, I understand that probably better than a lot of people.
Yeah, the average person.
Yeah. And I don't always look at, I mean, it's supply and demand. You have a skill that is in high demand. There's a lot of people wanting that. And so if I want that skill to come to my house, I got to pay the price. I mean, like I'm doing work on my deck, and I talked to my carpenter girl about bringing her and her crew out about doing it. And I finally told her, I said, Lindsay, I don't think I can afford you because the materials are crazy expensive anyway, much less paying, two of y'all to come do it. And then secondly, I'm kind of embarrassed about my deck. It's Levi, everything underneath it's 2x4s. Everything. I mean, the supports are 4x4s, but everything else is 2x4s. So
even the joists?
Oh, yes, sir. I mean, the decking's, was it 5/8 or no, 5/4? But like everything's 2x4s, man. Oh, so I have now, and my first little spots that I patched, I put back in with 2x4s, and I'm like, that's junk, and nothing pressure treated last anymore. So
yeah, that is true.
And so now I did some stuff back in the spring, and I'm like, I mean, I got to put at least 2x6s here, and I think I went with 2x8 on most of it. Yeah, I did 2x8s on it. So I mean, just things like that. The guy who built that deck to start with skimped on it on materials, and now I got to come back.
You got to pay for it.
Yeah. So
yeah, and that's part of what I'm trying to do with my business is there's a stigma around people in my industry that they're drug addicts, chain smokers, drunks, and just lowest of low people. And while there may be some of those people, that's not all of them. They don't make up all of the industry,
right.
And I'm trying to give an industry like mine a good name. Like these blue collar people are quality good people. It's not just a white collar people that are, the intelligent, the wealthy. No, blue collar people are some of the smartest people I know.
Oh yeah, yeah, no doubt. Like I mean, my dad's one, my granddad's one, your granddad's one. My grandfather, who I think probably made it to 8th grade, fought in World War II. Like that joker could build anything. You needed a tool and it didn't exist, he'd make it.
Wow.
He took a Cub Cadet riding lawnmower, and this was back in the 70s probably. Added a hydraulic pump so he could build garden attachments to it and raise and lowers and put it on a riding lawnmower. I mean, just stuff like that. And that was that era of people who they weren't going to go out and buy. There wasn't a Harbor Freight to go to. There wasn't a Lowe's to go to. I mean, they just had to use some ingenuity. And there's a problem, just figure out a solution. Brilliant people. And you talk about hating math, and I can remember, I guess it was Ben. I remember with Ben, I think, applying the Pythagorean theorem. Do you know what the Pythagorean theorem is?
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Which in the construction field is what? 3, 4, 5. What's 3, 4, 5 when you square a wall? Square a corner.
You got...
The Pythagorean theorem is the 3, 4, 5, where you go from the corner 3 feet, draw a line, go to the other corner 4 feet, draw a line. From line to line is 5 feet. And if it's not, that's not 90 degrees in there. But that's
I didn't.
That's the application of math.
Daddy said that to me. I don't remember. I just take my frame and square, put it in the corner.
Right. So,
but that's good. That's something. I'm learning something here. Something I need to apply.
So, and my construction teacher was a math teacher before he was a construction teacher. So, in the construction business, he saw that it was not sustainable for him. So he found that he could go to college, and he asked, "What can I go to college for?" and not have to pay much for college because somebody else is going to pay for it, and pretty much go be a teacher. And it was math. He said, well, I can do math. And so he went and was a math teacher down in Columbus. Well, I had a business partner, Carlisle Construction. I called Chance and I said, look, I'm looking for a construction teacher. And he said, well, the only person I can think of is Josh Tracy. Josh, a math teacher down in Columbus, but he used to run a construction business, and before that, he worked for me in construction, so he knows construction. I cold called him. Hey, man, would you be interested in teaching carpentry and electrical? Let me think about it. We talked money. I just picked him out of that basket, put him in my basket. And so he has done a lot with the State Department of Education so that our kids in our carpentry class now earn a geometry credit too.
Wow.
And so we've got a couple of those things where, like my healthcare class, one of them can count as a science class. My criminal investigation, there's a forensics class that I can count as a science class for kids. So it's stuff like that where I'm consumed with the hands-on stuff and I can learn the same things that those kids are learning in geometry. Give me the credit. And there again, some flexibility in the state who has said, yeah, we'll let that fly. And that's really cool. So my carpentry teacher does a lot of math teaching with them jokers.
They're so smart. They might not be the most polished bunch of individuals, with their country accents. People tell me I have one, and they're loud talking or whatever it might be, but they are smart people,
And we take for granted that, absolutely.
It's looked down upon. And that's what I think. I think this is it's already beginning to shift with what you're doing, and I think the world, our country, is going to see this more and more.
Oh, yeah.
Is this shift to where white collar may be the group of individuals that job is looked down upon more than blue collar.
Yeah, and I don't know if the white collar will come down as much as the blue collar will come up. So you'll have great value in both of them. Because the demand is going to be there. And then people like you who you're trying to maintain a certain image, a positive image. And there are other people in the industry who they don't care about that image. And so you got some issues with that. Well, you got that with white collar workers too. You got some unethical people in that profession too. Attorneys typically have a negative connotation to them. I don't know why. I hadn't dealt with many attorneys, but a lot of people think attorneys are bad guys. And they're not. It's stereotypes. So you've got to be the best representation. You've got to be the best you can be to represent your industry. Goes for all of them. Back to C.W. Matthews, they're a strong Christian group of men that run that organization and own it. They got weekly Bible studies on Thursday mornings. Their Bible study morning, everybody comes in the office and that kind of stuff. But I talk with DOT people who work with CW, and they're some of the filthiest guys out in the field that I work with. And there's a huge disconnect. And everybody's not going to subscribe to the same mentality. You can preach it. I don't know there's many bad folks working for Chick-fil-A, but there's bound to be a bad apple in a bunch. But the culture there has been, pounded into them.
Right. You got to build it.
And it doesn't just, it didn't stop with the Kathy's office in, Atlanta. I think, it's at every franchise and it's every day. And you've got the operator there leading the way. He's doing everything he's asking you to do. And he's being that example of what he's asking you to do.
Yeah. You got to make sure you're putting the right people in charge.
They're not always easy to find. Yeah, because not everybody's got the work ethic. You got the mindset, and Isaiah will be fine with you run because you understand if we play around right here and don't get the job done, then it costs more money. You're going to be a good steward of what you've been tasked with. You've been given this job to do. I'm going to be a good steward of it. We're going to get it done as fast and as efficient and produce a good product as we can. So he's not paying another day's wages to 3 more people on a job site or something like that.
That's right. Have we talked about anything? Have we not covered anything?
I'm sure there's a lot we hadn't covered.
Anything
I don't know
else you want to
No,
get to?
I just, encourage what you do. Chasing passions is really, really neat. You've talked about learning new skills in this and in your business that you're running. It's really neat to see a younger generation growing in that. And, you referenced it, I've referenced it. A lot of society thinks that, your generation's flawed and doomed to failure. And there's not. I mean, there's not. There's a lot of Levi Steels out there. We just hear unfortunately was it squeaky wheel gets the attention. It gets the grease. The problem people. They get a lot of attention and effort goes into them, and the you and my kids that are killing it in construction are, they're really, really good. We've got a lot of good kids doing a lot of good things. And I dare say, you guys are head and shoulders out in front in the race compared to kids who are thinking, well, I'm going to go to college for 4 years. I'm not real sure what I'm going to do when I get done, but I'm going to do that because, you're building a future. You're building for retirement. You're building for a family. There's you guys, I won't say have it together more so because you could change tomorrow. You may wake up tomorrow and say, I want to go be a nurse or I want to go do something else. So that possibility is always there, but the learning opportunities you've taken advantage of, it's really inspiring to see, kids your age doing this. And I say kids, I mean, I saw one of my former students the other day, 35 years old. I'm like, that's one of my kids right there. I mean, it's not a kid, but to me, you guys are. But I'm proud that you keep kind of, I think, what's Kirby say? Chop the wood. I mean, you just keep chopping. And I'm an Alabama fan, so Kirby probably learned that from Nick Saban, though.
Man, it's crazy I even let you in here.
It's rough world. I stuck in, man. It usually happens. My wife's a Georgia fan, and our house is divided. So she's a Georgia fan. Bailey, my daughter's a Georgia fan because she's going to be like Mama. Braylon's an Alabama fan because he's going to be like Daddy. My side of the family, my mom's a little bit Alabama. Paige's dad graduated from Georgia. My brother graduated from Georgia at one time. So I'm probably the black
sensitive dynamic in the family.
What's that?
Sensitive.
Oh,
the whole
can
dynamic.
be. Yeah. Levi, there was a time back before Kirby was on fire, and I think it was last time Alabama beat Georgia in the national championship game, and
2017.
And I don't think my wife talked to me for a couple of days after that game, and evidently I can be a little antagonizing with my facial expressions and those sorts of things. So evidently, I was not a humble winner, and she didn't take it too well. But now, the coin is flipped, and Georgia's rolling and doing it extremely well.
I cried after that loss.
See, I
cried
because if I'm not mistaken, Georgia had a pretty good lead early in that game.
Yeah, and then
second half happened.
Well, then they went into overtime.
Yeah.
And Devontae Smith caught that.
You remember that?
Yes. Yeah. I couldn't forget. Because I've been a Georgia fan my whole life, and then we're good. We're finally good. We go to a national championship the second year under this coach, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing ever. And I'm cheering the whole season. We're on the edge of our seat, and then they lose it, and I'm like, that's it. They're never going to win one.
I never go back to it.
Yeah, and then we win 2 in a row. And
yeah, so. Kirby is a really good coach, and college football's changed a lot. And I don't know that I like it as much anymore, but
I agree.
It's a double-edged sword. I can see players' perspective on things, and it's just a little bit different.
It is.
I don't know that we'll see the era of what Saban had, nor will we, or Bear Bryant. You won't see those days anymore. what Georgia's last run was probably like the peak. That was the last wave of dominating programs. I think the transfer portal and NILs, mostly transfer portals, have really opened that up. But NILs, I mean, you got big money schools that are just they're going to be able to pay, like your Power 5 schools, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan.
Texas Tech now,
Oklahoma.
Miami.
Yeah, I mean, those people are going to be able to pay kids to come.
Yeah, and hey, we see teams like Indiana that just won the national title. Like,
wow.
Who are these people? Kirk Cinetti, fantastic coach. Next Kirby Smart, maybe next Nick Saban.
I just wonder if it's like, can he keep that going? Especially at Indiana, I don't think so, but anywhere else for that matter.
I think he's good, but the thing is, like, we got to see. We got to give him a couple of years.
Yes.
Yeah. We got to give him a couple of years, and transfer portal helped him out big time.
Yeah.
You got to go where the money is in today's landscape.
That's the case, man. And I just,
Miami has a person, and their quarterback this year. He's got a $10 million NIL deal.
That's unbelievable.
Highest valuation NIL deal in college football.
Unbelievable.
Never played a year for them either.
And you're going to get $10 million. That's incredible. And then how does a kid like that manage that money?
Yeah,
what do you do? And kudos to people who have a level head and can manage that. Not that kind of money. I got a kid that got drafted by Arizona. He plays for Seattle Mariners now. But out of high school, he played baseball at Auburn, and when he got drafted, like $1.25 million, something like that, $1.75 million. Anyway, just the way, and I know him really well. I know his mom really well. Just to watch how they have managed finances and the kid's not vain. He's not, like, I think when he got drafted, his parents bought him a really nice gold necklace. Like, he drove a Kia. His dad worked at Kia. Drove a Kia he was playing in Seattle, and he's driving a 2016 Kia Sportage, one of those small SUVs. Money didn't do anything. If you can take a kid like that who can not let the money run him, I just hate to see a kid, and you don't see it a lot, but just a kid get all that money and then make some terrible life decisions or get used by people.
Well, I think the people that get used the most are the ones that don't have that family or a good support system around them to tell them what to do with the money.
Agreed.
So somebody comes along and they're like, oh, you need to put it here. You need to invest it here. You need to give me this, And
there's another dynamic that we hadn't specified, a great family dynamic. That when we talk about, you kind of asked why I thought culturally we were struggling a little bit. A lot of it goes back to family dynamics. Having a for guys, having a male father type figure around. If you're fortunate enough to be a dad, and or if a kid's fortunate enough to have a dad in their life, and that dad be a good man. Go back to good versus nice. Be a good man and teach his son the way to do things. And same thing for a young lady to have a good mom in place. And, Lord willing, they be married together. Just the deterioration of the core family it takes a hit on all aspects of our culture.
It's a tragic thing.
It really is, man. And that, I think some people take marriage as a convenience or an inconvenience. Being a parent as a convenience or inconvenience. That's something that has just, and again, data supports it, dictates what our typical outcome is going to be. The involved parent. I deal with some pretty affluent parents too who they give their kid everything they want, but I don't know that they get what they need. They're driving the new Broncos lifted, all the rock lights under it, all that. And, I'm just gonna say a $80,000 truck once they're finished with it. That's cool, but are you there with them $80,000 worth? Or do they understand the value of that vehicle?
Exactly.
I mean, I bet Ben and Sarah still didn't give Levi $80,000 truck.
No, sirree. My first vehicle was a 1997 F-150.
How much did you pay a portion of that?
I did. I actually, Daddy had gotten another truck, and he told me, you pay on this thing for a few months. I think I ended up paying only like $1,800, and I love that truck. It's still to this day my favorite vehicle. Because I tell people this all the time. You never appreciate stuff as much as if it was your own. Your own stuff you appreciate way more than anyone's.
That you paid for sure.
Right. Because, like, my dad's always taught me, you borrow something, leave it better than you found it. Leave it with fuel in it. You break it, go fix it.
That's why he and I don't like to borrow other people's stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I can remember coming to cut firewood with him one time, and I forget what it was. I think I had to borrow my dad's chainsaw or something like that. I'm like, all right, dog, when we get done, I got to sharpen this blade. I'm going to fill it up. I'm going to clean it up.
Because if not, Daddy will say something.
I mean, I just same mentality that I wanted it back, give it back better than I got it. And I always was afraid that, I was going to tear the bar up or something, and then I'd pretty much have to buy you a new chainsaw, and I still don't have a chainsaw.
Yeah. And too, that's why I think it's a good thing for kids to buy their own vehicles, or at least what they can contribute to it, and pay some of their insurance, pay for their gas, stuff like that. Now, mom and daddy helping you out, that's good. Like they should, I think. Especially being in high school and still going to school, and I do think you should have a job and work some too. But learning that at that early of an age, I think I'm so much farther ahead in some aspects, and that's not to sound arrogant or toot my own horn or nothing, but just because I have an appreciation for stuff more because I pay for my own insurance or my own gas or stuff like that, compared to people that don't, that been given it their whole life.
That goes back to they want to live the lifestyle mom and daddy provided. They want to live in the $400,000 home and have the latest iPhone and watch and car, and how you gonna afford that? And your first job, where your mom and dad's been doing it for 20 years to pay for it. So that's one of the, I think, potential disservices we do as parents, where too often we make it too comfortable for kids, where I'm gonna give you everything and you don't have to ask for or want. So that to learn that lesson of paying for it, I got to earn it, and I'm gonna take good care of it, because I guarantee you, if you borrowing somebody's tool, you treat it one way versus what you pay for, or you go to work with Isaiah and you're using his tools, you're gonna lay yours down a little more gently than you are his, because
it's just how
typically, it is. Yeah. I mean, you got the mindset of I'm gonna take care of other people's stuff. Not everybody has that mindset.
Right.
That's one reason, like, you go to work at a shop. I mean, they don't give you tools because they know you're not going to take care of it. That's why Snap-on comes to visit you at that shop. You need a tool, you go to the Snap-on man and buy your tool. He'll even give it to you on credit. I got a guy that works for a shop down in Columbus, and he's like, I can't stop working. I owe the Snap-on man more every week than I get paid. And his name is Tyler. I said, Tyler, you got might readjust some priorities here, man.
That's Snap-on.
Harbor Freight's pretty good stuff too, man. Go buy you some of those tools.
I've heard that Snap-on stuff's crazy.
It's real expensive. And you pay for the name, you pay for the warranty, and you pay for the service. But you can get some of the same benefits going to Harbor Freight, going to Craftsman, going to Lowe's, Cobalt. I mean, you don't need to drive a Cadillac right out of the gate.
I'm a Milwaukee guy myself.
So most of the tools in our shop are DeWalt, but I think my guy wants to switch over he wants to go to Milwaukee.
I was DeWalt for a long time with Isaiah.
I think you did some testing or something, right? I mean, didn't you do a comparison podcast or something?
Yeah, I did a video one time comparing them, but I mean, they have each brand has their stuff that's better.
Yeah.
They can't all do it right. But I like my Milwaukee stuff. I like being different than most people, and me having red and black. One, it's Georgia colors, and two, nobody else in my family has it, so it ain't gonna get stolen.
Yeah.
Or if it does, I know it's mine.
There you go. What's everybody else use? DeWalt?
They do. Well, my dad uses Ryobi.
Yes. I love Mr. Bob.
And then my uncle uses DeWalt. And no, my grandfather uses DeWalt. My uncle uses DeWalt. My dad uses Ryobi.
Oh, okay.
So and
all right. So I'm on level with Ben.
Yep. And we give him crap all the time about it. You better believe it.
I bet.
The stereotypes are real.
I don't know. I bet he'd put his work up against your work. He would be confident. Now, I don't know who would be better. But
he would. No, he definitely would. He's like, it's not always about the tool. It's about the person behind the tool.
That sounds like,
I was like, yeah, but
That's
like
great.
my batteries don't die as quick as yours. My motors are more whatever.
You got to have something to rib him about.
That's
give him a hard
right.
time about.
That's right. I got to. Well, Mr. Tyler, wrapping up, I want to thank you so much for doing this. It's been a pleasure to pick your brain and learn from you.
Pleasure's been mine, man. You got to have some Harris County stuff though. So you got to have a cup.
Oh, sweet.
And you got to have some notepads right there.
Gifts?
Yeah, and then there's some flyers in there, and that's just those are some of the things that we teach at our school, and some pictures of some of our kids in action right there. Let me see one of them. Yeah, so on the cover, I got one of my kids firefighting right there, working on a fire truck, and then I got a kid on the back, got a kid operating. That's matter of fact, that's a Komatsu, but that girl driving. So she's not only a champion brick mason, she's a heavy equipment operator too. That's her driving one of the smaller dozers.
She's probably tough as nails.
She's pretty tough, man. She is, and so is our framer's real tough too.
Wow. Man, this is so cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, it's great. We're real fortunate. I count my blessings and doing what I'm doing, where I'm doing it, who I'm working with, and there've been opportunities. I mean, I got a call last week about an opportunity to go somewhere else, and I mean, it's just not worth it. I mean, what I feel like the work I'm doing, the people I'm working with, the product we're producing. I mean, even if you pay more money, I don't want to leave right now.
Yeah.
We're getting really good results, and very fortunate, very blessed to have what we have in our community with our kids.
Keep doing what you're doing, because this
man.
is much needed. This is awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, Levi.
Yeah, and just a few more questions. I got a Bible. I ask everyone to sign it.
Oh yeah.
Is that something you
absolutely
underline a verse that's meant something to you?
Absolutely.
Throughout your life.
Just one? You want more than one? What you want?
Whatever you want. It could be a whole passage of scripture.
Okay. You also need a Better Than I Deserve bracelet too.
I get one of these too.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, that's awesome.
So do you remember the verse that goes with that?
Was in Romans.
Yep.
6:23.
You got it, baby. Good job.
Got it.
Impressive. If that one's not underlined, I'll underline that one.
Okay.
Colossians 3:23 is another one that's real special to me. And it's, hey man, whatever you do, do it for the glory of God.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's who we're here to please.
Mr. Tyler, 3 people you'd like to see on this show. Meet anybody.
On your show, man, I was wondering if Ben was going to make an appearance with me. I really would like to see, maybe your parents on here, just from a perspective of why they did what they did. How did they chose to rear you guys in a certain way? Why did they choose what they chose? Did it turn out like they thought? I'd be curious about that. Your family, I mean, you just got a really great family, man. Your siblings, your parents, your both sets of grandparents. I mean, y'all are good people. You put any of those on there. Some of those, you referenced getting some knowledge from business owners, and I think that you've pulled a few of those in here on some of your other shows. But that kind of person who can bring you and other people insight on, hey, I'm doing a similar thing as this guy I'm watching on YouTube. and he's giving me nuggets of info, or bringing people who are giving me nuggets of info to make my business better. Somebody like that. And then, oh gosh, I don't know. Somebody who's got some wisdom in finance.
Finance. I like that. I want to do one of those really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm fascinated with the world of finance.
Mm-hmm. Whether it's the business side of your business or investing in the future and retirement, that's just what I'm absorbed with right now. So
okay,
those are my three. And I don't know a person like that. I mean, it could be somebody here in Pike County. I mean, I bet between your family, y'all can name somebody who does some stuff like that.
Sure, we can find someone.
Mm-hmm. If not, Dave Ramsey. See if Dave Ramsey will come on.
Reach out to him. Yeah.
I mean, you got the bracelet. He says the same thing. I mean,
he's got to come on now, right?
I mean, it's worth it, I think.
That's right. Mr. Tyler, thank you so much.
Thank you, Levi. I've enjoyed it, man. Appreciate it.
If you found any value whatsoever in today's episode or any of our previous ones, head on over to YouTube and subscribe. Once you're done there, go to wherever you listen from. So this could be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or YouTube Music. Follow the show there. And if you're feeling extra generous, give it a 5-star review. All of this collectively ensures that more people will hear the show. So, thank you, and we'll see you next week.